What's up, duelists? Today I have an absolutely banger episode for you guys. A bunch of tournament matches from yours truly, playing a deck that I am very fond of, and I know a lot of you guys are also very fond of. So before we get into the deck list, before we get into anything, I do want to shout out Feel Good Gaming for having me out to their tournament at Xanadu this weekend. Really cool dudes. Shout out specifically to Evan, Brian, and Chuck. You guys are awesome. Thank you for once again putting on a great event. And shout out to everyone else who was involved, the judges, the players, everything like that. It was a really good time, and I had a great time. That being said, also some pre-johns before we get into things. I was running on like a collective hours of 4 sleep from the last 3 days before playing this tournament. So warming up, there's a few mistakes I make. I'm pretty sure I haven't watched my first match of this tournament yet. But I'm pretty sure I made a few errors in the first match of this tournament. Everything else, I pretty much tightened it up, but yeah, we'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about the deck list because that's what you guys are here for. You're here to copy my deck list. You're here to copy my swag. No, I'm just kidding. Most of you guys have had a pretty cool, pretty good time actually copying some of my deck lists. I know one of them did really well in Berlin last weekend. This week's gonna be a banger. It's gonna be a bunch of really good content. I've got top 8 deck lists from Berlin. I've got top 8 deck lists, or not deck lists, but I've got top 4 finals matches from this tournament. I've got all my tournament matches. It's just going to be a really good week for content, so make sure you guys are subscribed and tune in, because if you like Edison format, this is going to be the juicy stuff. This is going to be the stuff that people look forward to. Anyway, let's get into the deck list. So one thing people talk about a lot of the time when they talk about Edison format is they talk about how Jeff Jones won with Quickdraw Dandy Warrior in 2010, like kind of this breakout deck, you know? But they don't really talk about how Quickdraw Dandy Warrior also dominated the top 8 of this tournament. Sarash Siberian, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name and you're watching this, also got top 4 with Quickdraw Dandy Warrior. And then I believe, where's it? Jerry Wang. I'm not sure which it is, but he also got top 8 with Quickdraw Dandy Warrior. So it was just like, it was this massive force at this tournament. And I took a lot of inspiration from these 3 lists because these guys, they went to a tournament with over 2,000 players. I'm not going to have that kind of experience. Honestly, I'm just not in this format. There just hasn't been a tournament of that caliber in this format since 2010. Unfortunately, I would like for there to be, but unfortunately we don't have a point of reflection to look at like, okay, these decks did incredibly well at this massive event, and there were a lot of them that did well at this massive event. So maybe I can go back to the roots of this format and try to get some inspiration, because the deck I was going to be playing at this tournament was Quickdraw Dandy Warrior. It's the deck I've been having the most fun playing. It's not the deck that I feel is the most powerful in the format, but it's definitely a deck that I think has the most potential, and it has a high skill ceiling. So if I'm playing well, I'm going to be doing pretty well. So after looking at all 3 of their lists, for the main deck, what I did was, well, this is the list I ended up playing. I'll tell you guys in a second. For the main deck, what I did was I actually averaged out all of their main deck cards and just played that, basically. There were a few things that I changed, most notably that all of them were playing 2 book. I only ended up playing 1 book and 1 compulsory. This was definitely a mistake. I should have absolutely played 2 books. I should have also played the compulsory, but I should have played the book probably over Call of the Haunted, which is another card that I had elected to keep in from, I believe all 3 of them were playing Call of the Haunted, if I remember correctly. I'm not exactly certain how it was, but I averaged out their 3 lists and just took what I liked from all 3 of the lists. The other big change I made was I added a 3rd Debris Dragon. If the average of their list, 2 of them played 2 and 1 of them played 3. I really like 3 Debris Dragon because in this format, like nowadays, more people are playing heroes, more people are playing Blackwing, so setting it's not that bad. And then on top of that, you just need to see it. Like, if you don't see this card specifically, your deck feels very underpowered. Debris Dragon's probably the most powerful card in the deck. Realistically, it's the best top deck that your deck has. It's the best card that you can play from nothing. It gets you to a strong monster plus 2 tokens, which is a massive advantage for just 1 card. So I think that this is... It is, you know, a little bit inconsistent to play 3. I'm going to be honest. Opening it is not the best, but I do think you need to see it when you need to see it. So playing the full 3 is something that I personally made the decision to do. As a result, I am playing Charge of the Light Brigade. I think with 3 Debris, you need as many ways to get Dandelion in the grave as possible. So I'm playing both Charge Foolish. I'm playing Card Trooper. I did end up playing Morphing Jar. I want to say I was unhappy with this card, but I was actually really happy with it. It very much impressed me the whole weekend. We'll get into that in a second. The main deck I was pretty happy with. The only thing I wish I would have done differently was either swap the compulsory for a second book or found room for a second book, or just gone up to 41 and played a second book. I think that would have been a card that I definitely wanted to see more of. I was very impressed with Book of Moon in this deck. I think it just has so much utility, and it's so good both offensively and defensively in this deck that I think just having both is pretty important. Now, to the sideboard was imperfect. I did not copy their sideboards because the meta is not the same. People aren't playing the decks that they played in 2010. Like, the meta is way more, it's way more, I don't want to say, people have a different opinion on the meta nowadays, basically. People think, oh, this deck is good, this deck is bad, this deck is whatever. And I think that whether or not those opinions are good or bad, people have that opinion. So because they have that opinion, they're playing different decks, if that makes sense. So meta is always changing, so therefore the sideboard needs to be changing. When I was testing this deck, I played it a lot in the last few weeks. I'm sure you guys probably got sick of all the quick draw videos you saw, but that's just because I was trying to get comfortable with the deck, honestly, to play it in a big tournament. I'm really happy with Breaker the Magical Warrior. I've been talking up this card a lot, and it was impressive. It was impressive in the tournaments. I even played it in some, I played a money match where it was really crazy. Turn 1, I summoned it. My opponent had T-set, and I summoned it. I popped his D-Prison, and I attacked over his Dyna, and it was the most insane +2 breaker of my life, and I felt like a god. But yeah, this was definitely a sick card. Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, card I've been very impressed with. You can summon it to block DD Crow on your Avarice, which is really nice, or on your Call of the Haunted, which is really nice. You can also stop Miracle Fusion. You can stop Book of Life from ruining your day, and it helps you combat frogs, which is an annoying matchup, and it deals with Lightsworn. Lightsworn's a really bad matchup for quick draw, so I think having 2 Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer is really important. I might have even wanted a third. The biggest reason I actually have 2 in here is actually Amaryllis. I was testing, and I played a bunch against Amaryllis, and I'm going to be honest, the matchup's very bad. It's not a good matchup, and you'll see I do face Amaryllis in this tournament, so you guys can see if my sideboarding choice paid off or not. 1 DD Crow, I went down to 1. It's a little bit lower impact than Kaiku, and Kaiku plus Soul Release, I already have a little bit of coverage. I did miss the second DD Crow. I wish I had it, and I wish I had it over specifically My Body as a Shield or Starlight Road. Those 2 cards felt like shit. I did not want either of these cards in my deck at all. People just play around both of them. My Body as a Shield costs too much life points. It's just pointless. It's just a bad card. It's straight up a bad card. I think it's interesting because it can counter knock, but I think the best way to counter knock is just have a back row set, or just have another dude, or just set more variety of dudes or whatever. I think My Body as a Shield, 1,500 life points is just way too much. You can't play it. You can't play 1,500 life point cost cards in this format. It's just too risky, especially in a deck that is pretty defensive. This deck can pivot to offense really nicely, but overall, Raikou decks are pretty slow to get going. They need a couple turns to really pivot to the offensive. So paying 1,500 life points in these types of decks, it's going to lead you to get OTK'd a lot of the time. And this card was pretty terrible. It was by far the worst card in my deck the whole weekend. Trap Hole, Pulling the Rug, they did their job. These cards are never going to be great, but they're never going to be bad. They're always going to do something. They're always going to stop a normal summon. That's kind of just what I wanted, was them to stop a normal summon. And in those instances that they came up, they did what they were there to do, and that's pretty much it. The only reason I have 2 Trap Hole and 2 Pulling the Rug, as opposed to different numbers of both, is because of my siding patterns. I have 8 cards I wanted to side in versus Blackwings: the 2 Trap Hole, the Starlight Road, the Snowman Eater, the 2 Breakers, the 2 Cyber Dragons. And then going first, I only side in 1 Cyber Dragon, and I sided in My Body as a Shield, I believe. Yeah, that's what I did. But yeah, I needed to decide in and out 8 cards versus Blackwings, and that's why I have 2 Trap Holes instead of 3 Pulling the Rug. I do think Pulling the Rug is pretty good. It's pretty important going second, especially against decks that will Caius you. I think it just has a lot of utility versus Diva Hero, which is a scary matchup no matter what you're playing because it's an OTK deck. But overall, yeah, I was really happy with the build. I actually felt really solid with this. I really like 3 Debris. I really loved Book of Moon. I love this card in general. I wish I had a second one. And then, yeah, I liked the Dust Tornadoes in the main. There really wasn't anything that I had to complain about. And so what I can say is, shout out to these guys for getting top 8. Jeff Jones, Siraj, Jerry, you guys, you knew a thing or two back then, and it kind of carried over. I kind of took something from all you guys, and it was pretty cool to apply that, plus a little extra Debris Dragon on the top. It's probably one of the most standard deck lists I've ever played in a tournament, but it felt like one of the most consistent deck lists I've ever played in a tournament, which is kind of nice. It's kind of nice to just play something consistent. Let's go ahead and get into round 1. This is round 1 versus Avery. So this is a matchup I did not test enough. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't test this matchup enough. This matchup is zombies. This was one of the matchups that I was the most worried about. You'll see me, I'm on the right here. Ooh, check out the fucking mat. Shout out Feel Good Gaming for the mat. That's their new mat, I guess. They hooked it up. And then I'm wearing this the sick new JV5 hoodie. The GameCube controller JV5 hoodie. Shout out JV5. Okay, so I set a monster, and I set 2 back row. I believe, and my monster here, my monster set was fucking, what was it? It was Raikou. I set Raikou and I set 2 back row, and in my hand you'll notice I have Morphing Jar. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bait a way to deal with the set monster. I'm trying to bait him like to attack the Raikou or something, and be like, oh, that's a Raikou. And then I want to set my jar if he doesn't storm me, and if he does storm me, I can come back from losing -1 because I have jar. So like either way, I'm like, okay, no matter what happens here, it's not too bad if, you know, if he runs into the set monster and then I have jar to kind of equalize. Anyway, I set 3 pass. You'll see in his hand he has mind control, and he has what else does he have? I forget what he has. He draws for turn. He has mind control. I think his zombie master. He summons goblin zombie. So I'm like, fuck. I opened with, I believe, double bottomless space typhoon. And Raikou, obviously, not great versus Goblin Zombie. I'm going to pop the Goblin Zombie. I'm going to mill 3 spells and traps. Really unlucky. Just unfortunate circumstances. He has Dust Shoot, I believe. That's a Dust Shoot. I'm not sure. And a Torrential. And yeah. No. That's his deck. He's looking through his deck. My bad. I was like, yeah, I don't remember getting Dust Shoot this game. So this is the game that I haven't watched yet. He searches Plague. And so part of the reason he didn't mind control me turn 1 is because he didn't have a tuner. Pretty unlucky for me he didn't have a tuner. He didn't mind control me turn 1. Because you guys will see in a second. That mind control is it's kind of nasty. It's going to fuck me up. I'm not going to lie. So he sets 2 into my back row and just passes. He has mind control, Plague, Zombie Master, I believe a couple of trap cards. I set a 3rd one because he didn't storm me. So I'm just like, alright, he doesn't have storm. And then I'll set my jar. My hand is Lone Fire, and as you can see, Titanial. I opened up with Titanial. I opened with Titanial actually in 6 of these matches that I'm going to show you today, which is awesome. I drew that card an insane amount with almost I opened with it almost 30% of games, and I drew it in over half of my games, which is over the course of the game, which is insane. It's just so fucking unlucky. Another reason I wanted to go up to 41 is just because I draw that card so fucking much that I wanted to draw it slightly less. Literally, that is it. I just wanted to draw Titanial slightly less. I drew it almost every single game, which is crazy. So I set the jar. I pass. He goes flip pro heavy, and I'm like, all right, well, at least I have the jar, right? At least he's going to maybe attack into the jar again, right? I'm like, okay, that's fine. He chains Legacy. All right, so I'm down just like straight up -3 here. I'm just down straight up -3. But as you can see, even being down -3 and having a Titanial in my hand, if he summons a guy and attacks my jar here, I'm fine. That's it. I'm just okay. I'm back in the game. And that's why I say I'm happy with jar. He literally had to have a very perfect setup here with mind control to play around this jar, basically. Either that, or he would have had to do something like go into Revive King Hades, which, honestly, okay, he goes into Revive King Hades, I probably lose. And that's just going to happen. But he had to have specifically Heavy Storm, Mind Control to like play around this jar perfectly with perfect information. And because of that, I'm like, you know what? That's fine. All right, you know what? I got crushed game 1. I got sacked by some power cards. That's just going to happen. It sucks. It's round 1 of the tournament. But yeah, unfortunate. At least I'm going to get 5 new draws. Maybe I can get something here. Unfortunately, my hand is just a bunch of normal summons. It's got a couple of debris. He's going to be able to make Stardust Dragon because he had mind control for my jar, and he had Zombie Master put the Plague in play. So yeah, I can't even Black Rose to come back into this game. And of course, he's going to make Stardust because he commit 3 cards to his back row. So yeah, there's really not much to say here. The first game 1 is a wash. Shout out to Avery, my opponent here, for being an awesome person. Also, sick mat with the Archfiends on it. Very cool mat. But yeah, just got absolutely destroyed game 1. Really unfortunate. I'm able to make my own Stardust on the next turn of the game to try and come back in. But Avery having just 5 cards is is just too difficult for me to deal with. The Book of Lives were too difficult. They removed all my stuff. Foolish Dandy, I'm able to make a Stardust Dragon. The back row are like kind of bluffs, or they're like torrential and shit that Avery doesn't really want to play here. So I Pot of Avarice, shuffle back my cards, and yeah, it's just bad. I'm able to summon Stardust and make set Mirror Force, but it's like so easy for them to make Bryonic with Plague that they can just go Bryonic and kill me very easily. And I didn't draw into Gorse, so I'm going to flash forward a little bit from game 1 into the sideboarding portion, because game 1 we just get destroyed. It was mostly that turn with the Heavy Storm and the Mind Control. I tried to set up Stardust Mirror Force to see if Avery would misplay and attack with their monsters, and I would be able to flip Mirror Force. They would negate with Stardust. I would negate their Stardust with my Stardust, and I'd come back into the game that way. But unfortunately, they didn't misplay, and I was like, all right, so this person's not going to misplay, and I'm just going to have to outskill them in other ways, basically. I got pro-stormed. I got mind-controlled. Kind of the worst feeling after round 1. I also drew Titanial. I'm like, okay, this is pretty bad. How am I going to side this game? How am I going to side? What's my game plan? So basically, what I decided to do was side minimally. I didn't see Deep Sea Diva that game, so I wasn't really sure whether or not I should side in Pulling the Rug. I side in Pulling the Rug if Deep Sea Diva is a card in their deck, but I don't side in Pulling the Rug if it's like, if I'm going first and I don't know that they have Deep Sea Diva or not. Or I might only side in one Pulling the Rug. Basically what I do is I side out Mirror Force because it's really bad versus zombies. You saw how easy it was for the zombie player to play around Mirror Force that game. Generally speaking, when they go for OTKs, it's got Bryonic, it's got Dark Armed, it's got floater monsters that don't care about Mirror Force, Stardust Dragon. It's just very easy for them to play into Mirror Force, and Mirror Force is just pretty bad. So I usually side it out versus zombies. I know a lot of people don't, but I usually do. I think I sided out Morphing Jar. After that game, I was like, they know about it, so they're not going to play into it. They're going to play around it, which makes my Raikos a little bit better. So I think I sided out Morphing Jar. I believe I sided out... I don't remember what I sided out. What else I sided out? But I know I sided out those two cards for sure. I might have sided out, like... I don't know, a Deep Prison or something, because it's similar to Mirror Force. Although Deep Prison isn't bad. I might have even sided out Torrential. I don't know. I might have left in Torrential. What did I side out? I might have sided out a Raikou. Yeah, I might have sided out a Raikou and, like, Sangan or something. Or Card Trooper. I think I sided out, like, Card Trooper, Morphing Jar, and Mirror Force. And I brought in DD Crow, and I brought in some number of Breaker Kaiku, and I don't know if I touched Soul Release. I think it was, like, 1 DD Crow, 2 Breaker, 1 Kaiku is what I sided in. I didn't really have a lot of experience in this matchup, so I was just like, I don't really know what to side. I'm going to side some Graveyard Hate and some Back Row Hate because their Back Row is really good. They have shit like Return, which I'm like, I don't want to play against Return. And then I want to leave in all of my Synchro Monster package. Like, I want to leave in all of the Quickdraw, Dandy, Debris, because these are my best cards in this matchup. Black Rose is really good. If they do, like, a baby OTK, I just want to be able to Black Rose them. And then Quickdraw, Dandy, their deck doesn't deal with Drill Warrior, outside of having Burial. That's the only way they can deal with Drill Warrior. It, like, auto-beats their deck. So, my game plan is just get Drill Warrior ASAP. I think I might have left in Sangan because of that. I might have sided out a Caius. I'm not even sure. I don't even remember what I sided. That's the embarrassing part. This game was kind of a blur to me. I was on very little sleep. I was incredibly hungover. We partied the night before. It was my birthday, the day of the tournament, so I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I picked up a bunch of cards here. I put back a bunch of cards here. I ended up just siding like a couple, and yeah, we shuffle up. We present the deck, and I get to go first, which is really nice. And you can see right there, I opened up with Quickdraw Dandy, which is my game plan. So I'm like, awesome. I did leave in the charge. So I charged Mill 3 just to get my graveyard loaded for the Drill Warrior and to grab a Raikou. I'm probably going to set Raikou here along with my hand. I believe Debris Dragon in hand. But is that Debris Dragon? No, it's Caius. I think it's Caius. I don't know. I pitch Foolish because I already have Dandy access. I set Raikou, I set Book of Moon, and I pass a turn. Okay, yeah. No, I have Caius, and I have one other card in my hand. No, I just have Caius, right? I'm not even sure, man. I'm not even sure. Wait. Quickdraw, Dandy, pitch. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I just have Caius, Raikou set, back row set, token, and Drill's banished, and next turn, I can get back Sangan, I can get back whatever. If they attack my Raikou, I can get back the Raikou. Just if I mill something good off Raikou, I can get back that. I have Book of Moon. I just have it all. I basically have it all here. So they're going to look at their hands, assess the situation. They thought for a very long time here before figuring out what to do. They, as you can clearly see, do have Deep Sea Diva in the hand. They summon Goblin Zombie. Similar situation to last game where they attack, and I'm like, I'll just blow it up. And I do mill Debris Dragon, which is really nice. So that means Drill can add back Debris, and I can just start compounding Synchro monsters really, really quickly. So they search for Zombie Master, and I'm like, okay, cool. That's a way to get 2 monsters into play at once. They set 1 back row and pass. I draw for turn. I get to bring back Drill. Drill's going to add back Debris Dragon. I believe I drew Hamster, so that's probably what I'm going to pitch because I don't really want to deal with that shit, you know what I mean? So I activate the effect to banish. I don't want to lose my Drill Warrior just yet. He's pretty important. I want to get my Stardust Dragon going first, and then I can figure out what I'm going to do with the Drill Warrior with regards to attacking. So I'm going to go Debris, bring back Dandy, make 2 tokens, summon Stardust, attack for 25, drops my opponent a little bit lower, and they go down to 55 life points, or 5,500 life points. So pretty big pressure. If they don't do anything this turn, they're going to get Caius. Like if they just set a monster, they're going to get Caius, and they're going to die next turn, straight up. So that's pretty much that. This is like the perfect draw in Quickdraw, where you have Quickdraw Dandy Debris, you have a back row, you have everything you possibly ask for, and your opponent can't really do anything. Here they reveal Instant Fusion, which is very interesting. I did not know that they were yet on Instant or Diva, and now we know for sure, so now we know a little bit more about their deck. They're going to sack for Caius here. Caius is going to target the Stardust Dragon. I'm just going to let that resolve. I don't really care that much. I could have maybe done something, but whatever. I can just make another Stardust. I do extra deck the full 3 Stardust so that like when I'm in this situation, I can just make Stardust, and like they have to deal with 3 Stardust in a row. That's very difficult for zombies to deal with, or any deck to deal with really, is when you're just spamming Stardust. So yeah, that's exactly what I do. I Drill Warrior, pitch Raikou to banish. Once again, just make another Stardust, run over the Caius. It cost them 1,100 life points and 2 cards to deal with the last one. Now it's going to cost them just as much to deal with this new one, and it's just like another situation. I'm putting them in a situation, basically. They summon Granmole, I'm like, whatever. I have Book, so I'm chilling. They attack, I book the Granmole, and now they've lost their battle phase as well, and their Granmole, which was an out to the Stardust Dragon. Granmole is normally pretty good against the, the Quickdraw decks, but when they get Drill going, it's still not a decent enough answer to that. You need like Compulsory or something to deal with Drill. I think that's why I like the Instant Zombie list from RBT Ruler so much, is he was playing 2 Compulsory, and that's a way to out Drill Warrior. If you don't have Compulsory, like you literally can't out Drill Warrior. Like card just like solos your deck. It's so difficult for zombies to deal with this card. And I think this is why Zombies was considered so bad in 2010. It was considered almost unplayable all the way till 2020 because Drill Dandy just destroys the deck. And Quickdraw was considered to be one of the best decks. So when you have one of the best decks giving such a headache to this like similar strategy of like Synchro Spam, Caius Spam deck, it's very, very difficult for people to like look at that deck and be like, oh, this deck is good, this deck is viable, that sort of thing. And as Quickdraw has waned in popularity over the last decade or so, Zombies has definitely picked up in popularity, and I think that just makes sense naturally. But yeah, moving forward, Drill, at this point, I can just go for game. It's like trivial. I can just sack for Caius. It doesn't really matter what I add back. I'm just like looking at my graveyard to figure out what I'm sideboarding for next game right now, more or less. I grab back Gores because I'm like, okay, what could possibly go wrong? Maybe they solemn my Caius. Okay, then I have to figure things out from there. They solemn my Caius, they have their own Gores, and then I'm like, okay, I would just pitch and pass and like figure things out and keep my own Gores just in case they have like a reversal OTK. But I sack for Caius. I go battle phase. Caius attacks, and they have no blocks, and they're going to concede. So that's pretty much it. We're going to game 3. Feeling pretty good about that game, but going second's a lot harder, and Instant Fusion is a little bit scarier. I do look back at my pulling the rugs, and I'm like, yeah, going second, I'm going to need ways to stop that Caius. I just need ways to stop that Caius. Because if they Caius my set monsters, I fall apart. That's pretty much it. I look at the Debris Dragon, I'm like, I can't side out Debris Dragon. I might have to side out my own Caius going second. Because Caius is so slow, and the Caius mirrors going second is a card that gets stuck in your hand. It's really difficult to like reversal Caius people when you don't have great ways to special summon. So I end up siding out an Avarice because I figured my way of winning was actually to invoke the Synchros or to Caius their key recruiter And I was like, okay, maybe that's the best side out is Avarice, because if I'm spamming Drill Warrior, I don't really need Avarice anyway. I can just get back whatever off Drill Warrior, and that's my recursion. I don't really need the Avarice to shuffle shit back. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. We shuffle up here. We shuffle up, we shuffle up, we shuffle up. Opening hand. Let's see, did I brick again or did I open the nuts again? Because we've had a little bit of both. And as you can see from my hand, I have 2 Debris Dragons, Call of the Haunted, and Dandelion. So I'm like, damn, I'm kind of bricking on the 39th and 40th card, which is 3rd Debris Dragon and Call of the Haunted. Those are the 39th and 40th card. I would have loved to have Book of Moon in specifically this instance. So these tiny percentages that I made in my deck building thing is making my hands look a little weaker. So I'm just like, okay, well, this is tough. They set a monster. They pass back to me. I draw, I think it's Pulling the Rug, I believe. So I'm like, okay, I've got Dandy. I've got Pulling the Rug. I've got Dust Tornado. Maybe I'll just set 2 and pass. I think I set Pulling the Rug and Dandy and passed. My opponent can now do some good shit. They flip Goblin Zombie, and then they attack. But thankfully this time around, it's not Raikou. It's actually Dandelion. So we're able to get 2 tokens. Trying to set up for that Debris Dragon play. Unfortunately for us, main phase 2, they have a way to banish my Dandelion, which really sucks. And this is kind of the weakness of having too many Debris Dragons and too many Call of the Haunted, that sort of effect, Pot of Avarice, that sort of effect post-board, is that if this Dandelion gets banished, all of a sudden, 3 cards in my hand are completely dead. Like, his 1 Book of Life here completely deletes my next turn. And so, yeah, I absolutely get fucking destroyed here. And they have Solemn Judgment as well. So, I don't know if they Book of Life yet. Oh, they Book of Life later, I think. I don't remember if that happens yet. Here I start off with I think I set something, I don't remember what I set. But I just wanted to, like, Raikou pop the back row before I went for Debris Dragon. That's going to come back to bite me waiting on that, basically. Because they have Book of Life. And they are going to use it, so... Yeah, here comes Heavy Storm. Game 3 Heavy Storm, Game 1 Heavy Storm. Not much I can do about it. At least it's eating their own Solemn, kinda. But there's that Book of Life. There goes my Dandelion, and I'm just like, alright. Yeah, I'm probably getting OTK'd here. They searched Plague earlier, so there's really not much I can do. Worst case scenario, I'm getting Hades. But instead, they don't go for any sort of Hades, any sort of Bionic anything. And I think this was like just a terrible play on their part. I think you Heavy Stormed, like, go for the play. Like, go for the move. Make it happen. Do it now while I have no back row. Anyway, I'm able to float Hamster into Raikou, but my hand is so dead that they could even just go main phase 2 Bionic, bounce the Raikou, and I, like, lose straight up. Like, I can't come back to the game. My Debris is dead. My Call of the Haunted is dead. And, yeah, I'm just looking at my hand like there's not much I can do. And they end up doing that, actually. They end up going for the main phase 2 Bionic, search Mizuki. Mizuki bounced the Raikou, I believe. Do they bounce the Raikou? Yep, they're going to bounce the Raikou. Set Mirror Force and pass. I draw for turn. It's another Debris Dragon. I'm looking at my options. I'm looking at my hand. I'm like, alright, I have a Caius. I must have started with Debris Caius Call. That's what it was. Yeah, so I Caius the Armor Master. Now I have 2 Debris Call. I drew the second Debris later. That's what it was. Anyway, I Caius the Armor Master. I attack the Bionic, but I get deprisoned. And that's just unfortunate, because now I'm like dead to this Bionic pretty much. I set a back row to try and force the Bionic pitch, but Avery sees right through that and doesn't pitch a card to bounce my back row. And just bounces the Hamster to play around Gores and revives the monsters and basically just puts me on top deck something like Foolish or Charge to get back into the game. And even that wouldn't work because they have Vanity's Fiend as well here. So they have Vanity's Bionic, which is like super lights out combo. It's basically Christia Bionic, but slightly weaker, obviously, for reasons. And in this instance, I'm looking at my Call of the Haunted and my Debris Dragon. I'm like, if one of these was the second Book of Moon, I'd be alright. But sadly, one of them is not the second Book of Moon, and I'm not alright. And I'm going to go down 0-1 in the tournament, which is pretty sad. It's pretty sad. I was feeling a little bit sad about this one. I was frustrated about game 1, the Heavy Storm Mind Control. But you know what? That sort of stuff's going to happen. You know, like, people are playing more powerful cards nowadays, and you're going to have to bounce back from that. So, yeah, tough start to the tournament. Started 0-1, but it is a 7-round tournament. I will say, at this point in the tournament, I didn't know it was 7 rounds. I thought it was 6 rounds. I didn't know how many people had entered because I was in this feature match area like pretty much the whole time. I didn't really know what was going on. I guess I should say it was about 70 players, I think. There were about 70 players at the tournament. So they like broke the capacity to do 7 rounds, more or less. And so this was round 1. I go down 0-1, but I can definitely still top at this point. So I go next. Which is round 2 versus Alfonso. Shout out Alfonso. I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe I lost round 1. Maybe my round 2 opponent is like kind of a scrub. I was kind of hoping. I was kind of praying. But the exact opposite was the case. Alfonso's incredibly good. He pulls up with his like, I topped a YCS mat. And I'm just like, well, all right. All right. No, that's cool. I was hoping for an easy round 2 after I just had a really frustrating round 1. But you know what? We'll bounce back. We'll do some good stuff. Maybe I'll get to show off a little bit more of my deck. Show off a little bit more of the tech cards for the camera at the very least. Get some good content. After round 1, I learned a lot about the zombie matchup. I think I just needed more sideboard cards for it. I think my body is a shield. I was like looking at this card and I was just like, damn, when am I ever siding this in? Like, this card is just ass. I was really hoping that I had another card for it. I played a quick draw list recently that had triple banisher to help deal with the zombie matchup. And while I don't think that's necessarily correct, I think something like that, something like maybe to deal with that. I don't know, maybe more compulsory. I don't really know. I just think I had too many cards for Blackwings. And I over-prepared for Blackwings, which is funny because that's what we play next, which is Blackwings from Alfonso. So we'll get into this game shortly. I win the die roll, very luckily. You'll notice in my opening hand, I do have Titanium. I also have Gores. I do have some other good cards, though. I have Hamster, and I have 5 other monsters. So my opponent activates the first Black Whirlwind. I'm like, all right. Activates the second Black Whirlwind. I'm like, all right. Summons Bora, and I'm like, what? Why am I here? Why am I playing this game? But I'm like, okay, you know what? I got sacked round 1. Let me see if I can play through this. If I can play through this, it'll give me a good, like, mental, like, refresh. I'll be like, okay, if I can win this game, then I'm the GOAT. That's what I was thinking. If I can win this game, I'm killing it. My opponent started Bora double Whirlwind, which is like worst case scenario versus Quickdraw. It's our worst matchup. They have immediate card advantage, immediate pressure, but I do have Hamster set. And it's like not the worst here. I do have Gores in hand. That's a good way to get kind of a reversal kill. I think I have Caius in hand as well, so I'm like, I can get some card advantage here and I can maybe be okay. Like, if I can just handle this situation, this Bora double Whirlwind situation, and I can maintain a stable state, then maybe the Gores can pull me back. That's what I was hoping for here. I was like, all right, my opponent has the nuts. They have the nuts, right? So here, they are looking for something. What were they looking for? I don't even remember. I don't even know. Anyway, Bora attacks, reveals Hamster. They look at their Kalut. I know they have Kalut because they didn't search it. So I'm like, all right, they have Kalut. But, yeah. Decides not to use it. So I'm going to grab Raikou. And I'm like, all right. That's pretty good. Now, if he has Icarus attack here, I'm kind of boned. He just Icaruses both my cards and I lose. Straight up. Because I have no follow-up play. I have no way to clear a Black Whirlwind. I have no way to summon a Caius. And he's going to get 2 more searches. And the game's just over. But, I go main phase 1. No Icarus attack. And I'm like, okay. No Icarus attack. That's good for me. I can just flip my Raikou, hit the first Whirlwind. So at least now, I've dealt with one of the Whirlwinds, which isn't bad. It's not bad. I mill 3 spells and traps. So right now, my mills are 6 for 6 spells and traps, which is, oh my god, my luck has been insanely bad. I've had fucking, or not 6 for 6. I milled a few others in the other games, but like, I've had 3 fucking spell and trap mills, which is like on turn 1. Obviously later in the game it matters less what you mill, right? But early in the game you need the good mills, and I didn't get them either time here, which is tough. But 6 for 6 on the turn 1 mill, I should say. I do have Dandelion in hand, but utilizing Dandelion is very risky business against this deck. But I do have Caius, so I'm like, okay, so if I sack for Caius, I target the Bora. Maybe he like got greedy and waited on the Icarus, like maybe he has Dark Illusion. I don't even know. I think the safest play and the clearest route to my victory is sack the Raikou, target the Black Whirlwind, and just get rid of the black whirlwinds ASAP. Stop his card advantage engine. I have Gores in my hand. I have Hamster in play. He's gonna have to spend a card to get rid of the Hamster. I have stuff happening for me. So get rid of his like infinite advantage engine, and maybe the stuff happening for me can do better than the stuff happening for him. Maybe I can leverage the cards in my hand positively. So I decided to go for this, Caius the Shadow Monarch, and I do decide to target the Whirlwind. It's very tempting to target the Bora here. It's very tempting, but I think the correct play is to always target the Whirlwind here. Yeah, you banish the Bora, he can still go Gale, deal with the Caius, you know what I mean? It's like, and then Blizzard can still bring something back later if I deal with the Gale. It's like still an awkward situation for me. Whereas like banish the Whirlwind, it's like he can't search anymore. I don't know if he's playing Greffer. I don't know how good searching value is for him. I don't know if he's playing Mistral. I don't know what his deck is so far. All I know is that he opened double Whirlwind, and I'm going to just try to clear them both and attack the Bora. He goes ahead and colutes my Caius, and I'm like, okay, I'll take 700 and I'll pass the turn. Drawing you'll see some flashes here. People were taking photos, which was pretty cool. It was pretty interesting to see like people taking photos of us while we're playing. Anyway, here he goes for his Blizzard. So this is pretty good for me. Him spending the Blizzard now is like, okay, that's not a Blizzard later on that I have to deal with. So pretty happy about that. He checks his back row one more time. He thinks for a very long time on this turn. And I'm just like, bruh, make a move, bro. Bro, make a move. Do something. This is 2x speed. And then he specials the Gale finally. Halves the Hamster. One of the benefits of Blackwings is you can actually take a little bit of time to think because the deck moves pretty fast. So like once you get going, he halves the Hamster. I'm like, all right. He summons the Armed Wing. I'm like, all right. He's gonna attack. Gonna deal me 1900 pierce, which is a lot of pierce damage. Attack for 1300. Gonna attack for 17, and I do have Gores. So at least I have this Gores going for me. He has a crazy board, but I know he doesn't have Icarus quite yet. I'm gonna be able to summon a 1700 token. Main phase 2 is gonna make, I think, Bryonic. Yeah, he makes Bryonic, I think. No, he makes Goyo. So if he had made Bryonic here, it would have been really bad for me. But he made Goyo, so I was like, all right. No, he made Bryonic. He makes Bryonic, but then he just passes. He doesn't bounce either of my cards. I'm like, what? What did he mean by this? Why make Bryonic, but not bounce either card? I feel like you just make Goyo. I was like, all right, okay. Anyway, I draw Brain Control. So either way, I sack my way out of this terrible situation. He had double Whirlwind start, but I did have Gore's Brain Control. Even though I drew Titanial, I opened with Titanial. Having Bryonic here is really good. Now, this is actually a really tricky situation because I'm low. You'll notice I'm at like, I think it was like 1600. I think I was pretty low. I think I was, or no, I might have been at like 1900 or something like that. But pitching Dandelion is kind of a liability because if he has another Bora or another Blizzard, I just fucking die. But I'm like, let's risk it because like we're playing to win. We're not playing to not lose, you know? Let's just risk it. I've already seen one Blizzard. I've already seen one Bora. He didn't special another Bora last turn, so he doesn't have it. This turn, he would have to top deck it. So, yeah, I'm just asking some questions. I forget what I was asking here. But, yeah, I pitched Dandelion. I'm like, I just want my tokens. Let's get rid of that Armed Wing. Let's swing with all my monsters here. Let's get the most damage. Let's say you better have it situation. I check his life total. He's at 79. So I'm like, okay, you better have Mirror Force or you're going to take 63. I'm going to bounce his back row. And I'm like, no, wait, yeah, I do bounce his back row. I said, fuck it. Fuck Mirror Force. I attack with all my monsters here. I deal 63. And I'm like, all right, next turn I have game. I'm going to sack the Bryonic, sack my token, summon Titanial. And I'm feeling pretty good here. Brain Control's off the table because of Titanial. Icarus is off the table because of Titanial. Sirocco Pump's off the table because of Titanial. It's literally just Blizzard that kills me here. And Bora, I believe. But anything other than that, I'm actually totally chilling. He draws for turn. He has, I don't see exactly what it was. I think it was Sirocco, Kalut, and Mirror Force. I think he has Mirror Force. He summons Sirocco. He attacks a token. He passes the turn back after setting back row. We draw for turn. We draw Foolish, which is just more tokens. And I decided, okay, he didn't have it last turn. He's not going to have it this turn. Let's Foolish the Dandies. Tokens. I might do that in a second. I attack first with Gores. He uses Kalut. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I still have my Titanial to stop the pump attack. So I'm going to Foolish, send 2 more tokens, and set Raikou. Just because I need to have as many tokens as possible to negate the Sirocco Pump, basically. And to negate stuff like Icarus and whatnot. I think at this point it's like, I'm going to lose to Bora no matter what. I have 1 token, so it's like, no matter what, I'm going to lose to Bora. Or not Bora, sorry. Armed Wing. I think I was slightly higher than the Bora Pierce. So I was like, okay, I'm going to lose to that no matter what. So I'm just going to make the best play, which is put as many tokens as possible, play around brain control, play around all that stuff, basically. So Sirocco attacks the set. It's going to be Raikou. I think for a really long time here about what to pop with Raikou. I decided to just pop the Sirocco on mill 3 because removing the threat is what's best for me. I attack with Titanial. He does have Mirror Force. I'm like, all right. But I drew, I believe, Torrential or something like that. I just draw pass, draw pass. He sets back row. I draw pass, draw pass. I draw Heavy Storm. He has Solemn Judgment. So he drops down to, I believe, 600. I summon Card Trooper. I mill 1. Attack. He has D Prison. I'm like, okay. I just need to draw a monster with 600 attack, which is a good bit of my deck. He draws for turn. It's Sirocco. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Attack a token. I'm like, that's fine. I don't need a Torrential here. I can hold that Torrential as long as possible for that stupid Blizzard or Bora or whatever card is going to defeat me, basically. I check my graveyard. I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right. Pot of Avarice? No, I'm just kidding. Never lucky. Anyway, just kidding. Nope, never lucky. More back row. Here comes Upstart, and this puts me out of, I believe, Bora range now. I'm at 1900. So I'm like, okay, this Bora, I can Torrential here, see what they have. Chain Icarus, target the other 2. Oh, I'd set charge. That's what it was. It was charge because I had already seen all 3 Raikous. So I set the charge to bait the Icarus attack, and it worked out really well. So here I top deck Pot of Avarice, and yeah, just back in the game. Surprisingly, worst matchup, they opened the Nuts, and we opened Titanial, and we're actually in a good position to win. So just goes to show, sometimes your opponent can open really well. Just don't get tilted. Just take it one situation at a time. Make sure you deal with those big threats. A lot of this game came down to me just dealing with those Whirlwinds immediately and taking out those Whirlwinds immediately. I think had I left those Whirlwinds there, this game would have ended a lot sooner in favor of Alfonso. So the fact that I prioritized getting rid of the Whirlwinds, I think that is a really high priority target. Just deal with the Whirlwinds, use your Hamster to wall them out and force them to spend their Gale and stuff, and use your Caius to deal with the Whirlwinds and stuff. And I think that's the best way to trade off there in the worst case scenario. I go Avarice into Avarice, which is just the nuts, honestly. Really shout out to Pot of Avarice. It's like one of the best cards in this deck. It's one of the reasons to still play Quickdraw, I think. Pot of Avarice is just a ridiculous late game top deck. We draw Dandelion, double Raikou, and I'm just like, bruh, can I have a 600 attack monster? I check his life total, and I'm like, I'm not summoning this Dandelion because then I just randomly die. So I'm just going to set a Raikou and pass. He sets a back row, passes. I draw Quickdraw. I flip Raikou, target his new back row. It's Icarus attack. I mill 3. And here I go for one of the sickest kills, which is play around Oppression, play around Bottomless. Mirror Force is already gone. I'm going to sacrifice Raikou for Quickdraw. And attack with Quickdraw for game. So, pretty beautiful win. Pretty beautiful win. I was feeling pretty good after that. I was feeling pretty fucking good after that. I'm not going to lie. That was like really, really fun. That was a really sick game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And being able to take on your hardest matchup and their best draw and clutch a victory is like, damn, Quickdraw is good. Like, this deck is good as fuck. People definitely underrate this deck. Like, that was a crazy game. And I was able to do it because, like, you know, the engine is strong, Pot of Avarice is strong, and Titanial is really good. Titanial put him in, like, a really hurtful spot. Even Tribute Summoning it was really good that game. So, yeah, really solid stuff from my deck. I was super happy with my deck choice after that game. Moving into game 2, I sided the exact same way I said in the intro. I sided those 8 cards. I believe it was Snowman, double Cyber Dragon going second, double Breaker, Starlight Road, and double Trap Hole. I sided out, I believe, Solemn Judgment, Call of the Haunted, Quickdraw, Debris, Sangan, Card Trooper, Morphing Jar. I side out a lot of monsters. I side out like 5 deck dev targets. I don't remember exactly which ones, but yeah, I sided out 5 deck dev targets basically. So moving on into game 2. This is tight. Being able to watch paper gameplay. I really like this. If you guys like paper gameplay, make sure and drop a like on this video because this is really sick for me. This is what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to me. Like, hanging out with people and just playing in paper is really fun. My boy taking 18 million years to sideboard because he's never faced Quickdraw before because everyone underrates it. But yeah, you check out my hand, and my hand's pretty fucking good. I've got Cyber Dragon, I've got Hamster, I've got Avarice. I'm just like, yeah, this hand's great. My opponent hits me with that Whirlwind. I'm like, all right. That's cool. Whirlwind, search Gale. All right. That's cool. I know what's happening here. I know I'm getting deck devs. There's no reason you search Gale unless you're deck deving turn 1. So, yep, make the Armor Master and pass the turn. I draw for turn, and I believe it was another trap card. We're going to be able to see my hand here really clearly. So he's going to go for deck dev in the draw phase, sacrificing his Armor Master. And you'll notice my hand is Brain, Dust Tornado, I believe it's Trap Hole, Cyber Dragon, and Pot of Avarice. Now, even though this is a 2-for-1 deck dev, and even though my hand is pretty good, it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. Avarice is dead. Brain Control is not great. Cyber Dragon's okay, don't get me wrong, but he has an active Whirlwind. It just makes him... It's so hard to play with active Whirlwind. It's just so hard to play. I have Dust Tornado to deal with it, but that's pretty much it. Anyway, I set my cards. I set my 2 trap cards, and I just... Or actually, I set my 2 trap cards, and I just pass. I set Trap Hole, and I set Dust Tornado. I'm just like, all right, you're up. You're up. Do your worst. And he has, in fact, my worst, or his worst, which is, or best, I guess. Do your worst, do your best. Why do we say do your worst? Is that, do we want them to do worse? Do we want them to do better? I don't understand. Anyway, he thinks for 8 million years, activates the second Whirlwind, and summons Blizzard. And I'm like, bruh, what were you thinking about? At this point, I'm like, I have to Trap Hole the Blizzard. I only have an out to one of these Whirlwinds. I've gotten double Whirlwinded 2 games in a row. And I'm like starting to get a little tilted because I'm under, not only that, but I'm under fucking deck dev. So it's not only am I dealing with double Whirlwind like I was last game, I'm dealing with double Whirlwind under deck dev. And I'm like, bro, come the fuck on. Cut me a fucking break here. But it's okay. You know what? We'll keep going. We'll keep going. I Trap Hole. He brings back Gale. On my turn, I draw my Body as a Shield. And I'm looking at my Body as a Shield and I'm just like, bro, I fucking hate this card. I have an opportunity here. I have an opportunity to special summon Cyber Dragon and Brain Control his Gale and make a Synchro Monster, but I don't extra deck Colossal Fighter, which is the only thing I can make that his double Whirlwinds won't answer. So I'm like, fuck me. I don't have Colossal Fighter in my extra deck. I didn't think it would come up like this. Honestly, it rarely ever comes up that this situation happens. And when it does, people usually have like Bryonic and Catastor. They usually don't have Colossal Fighter in their extra deck. But this is a situation that's making me rethink the construction of my extra deck. Maybe rethink the second Chimera tech for a Colossal Fighter just to have that option for this specific scenario where I have Cyber Dragon Brain and they have Gale Whirlwind. Because this, I feel like, is common enough that I may want to have Colossal Fighter in my extra deck. And if I did have Colossal Fighter in my extra deck, I think I would have won this game. Straight up. I think I would have won it. I don't think he has ways to deal with it. The Gale is now gone, so he can't like search Gale, search a tuner, and like be able to make Bryonic that easily. He's going to have to summon something, search Blizzard or whatever. I have Dust Tornado for one of the Whirlwinds. I just can't answer the second Whirlwind. This is so fucking unlucky, man. It's like literally the least, like you couldn't stack a better hand from him, like straight up. And yeah, unfortunately I have this bad sideboard card, which is my Body's a Shield in my hand. I wish it was literally anything else right now. But alas, here it is. I think I was citing 9 cards, and then I stopped citing my Body as a Shield after this. Like, just in every matchup, because I was just like, it's so bad. I set that my Body as a Shield. He knows about it, so it's like, there's really no reason not to set it. He can just summon anything, Whirlwind Surge, deal with my Sirocco, but he decides to T-set and pass. I'm like, okay, so that's a value. But even that's terrible for me, because he has Armor Master already engraved. So that means he's going to level up into Silverwind. I draw Caius, and I'm like, I have to answer the Whirlwinds. I literally have to answer the Whirlwinds. If I Caius, banish the value, and he top decks a monster, I still fucking lose. So I'm like, I have to answer the Whirlwinds. I have to Caius answer the Whirlwinds. And if I go Caius, target the monster, and he chains Icarus and hits my 2 back row, like, that's so fucking bad for me. Because then he still has double Whirlwind, or he still has single Whirlwind, because I can chain Dust on one of them, but he still has single Whirlwind. So I'm like, I have to hit a Whirlwind here. If it's Icarus attack, like, it's just so bad for me. Anyway, I Caius. I had a feeling it wasn't Icarus attack, because he didn't Icarus attack, try to hit my Cyber Dragon and force my Body's a Shield, but it could have been. It could have been. I don't even know. Anyway, I decide to attack. It's value. I'm like, I can't answer the silver one that's coming. Hopefully he just doesn't draw a monster. But he does. He draws the best monster, which is Sirocco. I do have Dust Tornado to stop the Whirlwind, but this is just the most devastating clock. He knows my back row. He knows everything because of I'm been under deck dev. He can make the Silverwind now, and I'm just like, okay, I have Brain Control. Maybe I can I can stabilize somehow if I draw another Caius, but I have to get pretty fucking lucky here. I draw for turn, it's Foolish Burial. I'm like, okay. Foolish Burial can get me Dandy tokens, I guess, to buy me a little bit more time. It can set me 1 card closer to my avarice. It will put me to 4 monsters, but not quite 5. I'm going to Brain Control, take Sirocco, pump Sirocco, attack over the Silver Wind, deal 2,000 to my opponent. So at least I was able to use the Brain Control as like a spot removal on my Foolish Dandy and get 2 tokens, but now I'm out my Brain Control, and I need to find specifically like Debris Dragon, which I've cited one of them out, so it's not a great situation for me. And then he top decks Blizzard, and I'm just like, dude, can you stop drawing monsters, bro? Like, can you stop having like the perfect draw every single fucking turn? Like, it's literally the perfect draw every single turn, and I end up dying that turn because of it. And I'm just like, all right, well, let's go next, I guess. You can't open double Whirlwind 3 games in a row, can you? And it was a little bit frustrating. I'll just say that much. Game 1, I didn't cut his deck. Game 2, I did cut his deck. And I'm like, all right, well, it's just my luck, I guess. Right? Anyway, going into Game 3, I changed the sideboard up a little bit. I bring back in some of my good going first cards, like Solemn Judgment. I go for Lone Fire into Titanium. And I'm like, looking at my hand, I'm like, this is pretty good, right? Maybe I should have gone for Dandy here. Maybe I should have just gone single Lone Fire into Dandy, because my hand has Caius in it, and I have no real great way to facilitate that Caius. So I was thinking like single Lone Fire into Dandy might be okay. I have Typhoon, I have Dust, so I'm like feeling okay about this. Sort of, ish. Maybe. I don't know. He thinks for 80 trillion years here. And I mean 80 trillion years. Like a solid 30 seconds he thinks for here. And this is like, if he had thought for like maybe 5 seconds longer, I would have called a judge for slow play. Now, don't get me wrong, the match was moving at a reasonable pace, so I wasn't that upset. And it is turn 1 when you have all 6 cards, so you know all your options. But I still think, like, if you're thinking about your first play for like 45 seconds, you know what I mean? And then you like activate a Smashing Ground, which is like the most slam dunk play you can make. Then yeah, he sided in Smashing Ground versus me, which it deals with Titanium for sure, but that's all it deals with. So it's a bit of a narrow card to side against us, but it ended up working out for him. Unfortunate for us, not going Dandelion, get punished by some random sideboard card that he probably shouldn't have been siding against us, but alas, here we are. He checks his hand a billion more times, thinks for like another 30 seconds, or 25 seconds, then summons Greffer, and goes pitch, Sirocco, send Vayu. And I'm like, all right, he's on Greffer. That's tough. That's really tough, because this is like another nut start, basically. This is another Whirlwind start. And we hadn't seen Greffer the first parts of the game, but this means like we could potentially get deck dev'd. He just passes the turn after hitting for 17. I end phase blow up both, because I'm just like, I could save one of these for Whirlwind, but he didn't have it last turn, right? So what are the chances he has it this turn? It was Road deck dev, and I'm like, thank God I got rid of that deck dev. I could not have played under that. I have Breaker now. I can summon Breaker and attack over the Dark Greffer. So at least I can get rid of his monster and maybe force his Armed Wing. I'm going to set 1 back row and pass. So if I force him into Armed Wing here to attack the Breaker, I can bottomless that. And if he doesn't have specifically a second Sirocco, he can't get over my Breaker this turn. Or if he doesn't have specifically Brain Control, he can't get over my Breaker this turn. So I'm like, okay. So he has to have one of 3 cards to really do anything here. Like, I'm looking pretty here. I'm actually doing pretty all right. He has like 2 cards in hand, and I'm like big chilling. I'm like actually just big chilling, straight up. He passes, and I draw for turn. I think my set card's actually Heavy Storm. I don't think it's bottomless. I attack for 19. He has nothing. I look at my Debris Dragon. I'm like, this card is dead. I have Brain Caius in hand. I'm going to set the Debris Dragon. If he does find that Brain Control, or if he does find that Sirocco, then he'll go Armed Wing over, or he'll go just Sirocco, attack the Breaker, and then next turn I can sack my Debris for Caius and still keep my Brain Control, basically. I pass the turn. Also, next turn, if I draw Sangan, I can normal that and Synchro if he does another turn of just pass. And you can see why Breaker's so good here. It forced him to do nothing. It got in 1900 damage. It forced him to not commit to the field, because if he commits any spells and traps, I'm just going to blow it up. He looks at his hand. He's got Brain Control off the top, and I'm like, well, shit, there goes my Heavy. That's unfortunate. He attacks the set. He takes 400 from this attack. He sacrifices for Sirocco, and I'm like, well, fuck. He really had the 2 cards he needed to have. That being said, because I set the Debris, I'm in like an okay spot. It's not too bad for me. I was a little bit nervous he would sack for Sirocco, bring out the Armed Wing, and like get aggressive with it before that. But obviously that's bad for him into Raikou, so he played a little bit more conservatively. I draw Caius. I'm like, all right. Or not Caius. I draw, I think, a trap card. I think I draw Bottomless here. Or Call of the Haunted or something. I'm not sure what I draw, but it's a trap card for sure. I decided to brain control the Sirocco because I'm like, okay, what are the chances he has the third Sirocco? Because it's literally just the third Sirocco or Gale, I think, that gets him out of this. I brain control the Sirocco. I attack for 3,000. And then I sack the debris for Caius, target the Sirocco, put him down to 1,500, set my Bottomless, and say, go. Like, actually, at this point, I think it's not even Sirocco. I think it's just Gale. I think it's only Gale that gets him out of this situation. Dark Armed, kind of. Dark Arm, kind of, because it trades with my board, and then he can Armed Wing. But Gale gets him, like, cleanly out of this situation, basically. He draws for turn. What does he have? Sirocco, number 3. And I'm like, all right, I'm forced to Bottomless this. I have to Bottomless the third Sirocco here, because then he can go Armed Wing and then pump up the Armed Wing. And if he has Kalut, or if he has Special Bora, he doesn't even have to go Armed Wing. And I'm forced to Bottomless the Bora, and then he can bring out the Armed Wing, and then I'm fucked. So I'm like, I have to Bottomless the Sirocco here, right? So basically, I need him to not have specifically Kalut or specifically Gale now. So he goes Banish, Banish, Special Armed Wing, attack, and he has specifically Kalut. So he drew all 3 Sirocco and the Brain exactly how he needed to, and fucking had Kalut too to deal with the Caius. I'm like, well, I put him on Habit on one turn. He needed to have like it was like a combo attack, or he needed to have specifically Gale or Dark Arms, and he ended up having it, and I was just like, what can you do? What can you do? You know, my opponent's never going to dead draw. That's how it goes. I still have a lot of time. He top decks Blizzard off the top, and I'm just like, well, fuck me. I have to trap all that. Like, literally the perfect draws, the whole fucking match. I'm just like, oh my god, dude. Can I have a fucking break? I draw Mirror Force. He plays around it, which is good. That's good play on his part. He was a great player, I will say it. He played really well. He switches the Clue to attack. He passes back. I pass the turn. He, I believe, doesn't attack to play around Gores, which is smart because my draw was Gores. So, once again, he played around everything. I set my monster. He goes ahead and activates Whirlwind. So, he's able to find Gale and go for exact lethal, I believe. I believe that's what he does. He thinks here for 8 million years. There's really nothing to think about. Just activate the Whirlwind and summon your monster. Yeah, and I was like, all right, you're going to have Whirlwind all the games, and you're just going to draw perfectly. It's like, all right. You know what I noticed about this match is he never drew Shura once. He only drew 1D Prison. He never drew Bottomless. He never drew, like, literally any card that I could play around, he never drew it. He just drew perfectly in every situation. And I was just like, all right, there's only so much I can do. I can only beat double Whirlwind so many times, you know what I mean? But yeah, this was a really unlucky game where he drew perfects, and it just happened to line up that way. So I'm starting off the tournament 0-2. If I win out, I can still top 8. So I have to go 5-0 from this point to top 8, which is doable. It is doable. I believe in my deck. That game 1 gave me a little bit of hope, but that was such a fucking heartbreaking game, man. Because I feel like I outplayed him. I feel like I played well. I feel like I played all my hands like the way I needed to play them. I think I did the right things. I planned ahead. I played responsibly, and I just got punished by my opponent having the luckiest shit ever, which he had to have those specific cards. Otherwise, he couldn't have won, which is fair. And he played well, too. He didn't choke the game. He didn't play into Gores. He didn't play into Mirror Force. And so I think he definitely, he played to the advantages of his luck, which I think is, you don't get enough credit for that. I think I should give my opponent credit here. Alfonso, he played really, really well. So, pretty surprising opponent in the 0-1 bracket, but he went on to top 8 this tournament as well. So, shout out to Alfonso, very strong player. Now, round 3 is versus, I am so sorry. I am terrible with names, and I don't remember your name, but he was one of the coolest dudes. And he has one of the sickest mats I've ever seen, which is this Egyptian god obelisk obliterate mat, which was so sick. It's just an obelisk punching the shit out of the ground. It's one of the sickest mats I've ever seen. This might be the hardest mat Konami's ever printed. It's like a prize wall mat, and he said he won it out Richmond or something like that. So I don't know what he's playing yet, but we get shuffled up here, and we get underway, and I win the die roll again. So I've been really lucky with the die rolls this tournament. So I can't complain about that. I do think when shooting dice, I'm a little bit more lucky than rock, paper, scissors. I don't know why that is, but it's just the way it goes. I start off with charge. I mill Raikou. Thankfully, I didn't mill both Raikous because I have one in my hand. So thankfully, that was not the case. I go ahead and set Raikou, and I think that's it. Yeah, I just set Raikou, set Solemn, or something like that. I don't remember what I said, but that's what I said. Yeah, I said Solemn. I set Raikou, set Solemn. He summons Gear Frame, and I'm like, well, fuck me. I have to Solemn that. So I drop to 4,000. I'm like, all right, Sag, pain. That's brutal. But at least he doesn't get his Gear Frame +1, and we can maybe start to do something. But then he decides to pitch another Gear Frame and Special Fortress. So he's getting hella aggro. And I'm like, God damn it, this sucks. But at least he's not getting the second Gear Frame search. Maybe he has Pot of Avarice, maybe whatever. But I just need to pop this Fortress. Whatever he takes out of my hand, okay. You know, he can take any one of these cards. My hand will still function somewhat. He ends up taking, I believe, Card Trooper. I believe that's what he takes. He checks my grave. Thinks for a bit here. Checks his hand. He takes a Card Trooper, yep. And then Raikou's going to mill 3. I milled Dust Tornado, Compulsory, and Titanial. Happy I'm not drawing the Titanial this game, thankfully. This is the one match where I don't start with Titanial in my hand. Anyway, yeah, Raikou blows up the Machina Fortress, and he goes main phase 2, Gold Sark, and I'm like, fuck. Because you know what that means. It's Jin's over, baby. He's searching Future Fusion. He is not playing Machina Lightsworn. He's playing Jinzo. Now, one thing about Jinzo that I will say is this deck, it picked up a lot of popularity in the last few weeks. I know I've made a couple of videos talking about how strong the deck was. It actually did incredibly well at this tournament. It made it all the way to top 4 at this tournament, and it won a tournament in Berlin. I'm going to be covering those deck lists later this week, and those matches that those players played later this week, those top 4 like high-level tournament matches with Jinzo later this week, and I'll be showing you guys a little bit why this deck is so fucking scary. Definitely one of the scariest decks. It's a matchup I never want to see. Basically, Future Fusion is a 1.5 card OTK, and they have like a 20% chance to basically open with the card that beats you immediately, which is terrifying. It is definitely one of the scariest matchups by far. And it's making me regret my decision even more to only have one DD Crow in my extra deck. Or not extra deck, side deck. I definitely wish I had multiple Crows here so I could help fight against this Future Fusion Machine of Fortress nonsense. And I also wished I had had that second Crow to deal with the zombie matchup. But alas, here we are. I'm able to normal summon Debris Dragon. I'm going to bring out Card Trooper. I'm going to mill 3, try to get my Avarice live. I do hit Dandelion, which is very lucky. So I'm able to make Stardust Dragon here. And honestly, I'm kind of crushing it. I attack for 25. No, I Avarice first. I Avarice first to try and see what I have before I play around Gores. Before I decide to play around Gores or not. I know against Future Fusion, they do play Gores. So it's like, do you attack? But I just have to. I have to attack for 25. I draw Lone Fire, so that means I can at least go into Titanial. I think I might have even drawn Titanial too. I'm not even sure. I can't tell from my hand. But I definitely drew Lone Fire. So I'm like, I have Lone Fire, so I can at least run over the Gores if he has it. He goes Summon Gale, and I'm like, well, shit. I can go Torrential, Blink the Stardust. I asked for priority, I think. He goes priority, target the Stardust Dragon. And here, I do go for Torrential to Blink the Stardust. I think, in hindsight, this was the best play because I know Future Fusion's coming next turn. Which means, if he Future Fusions and gets Jinzo into play, I can no longer Torrential. The Torrential's just going to be dead. So this is the only chance I'm going to get to use the Torrential Tribute before he's able to Future Fusion for multiple Jinzo and just kill me. So I'm like, okay, I have to do this now, and I might as well keep my Stardust around. So I Torrential Chain... So he goes Chainlink 1 Gale, Chainlink 2 Torrential, Chainlink 3 Stardust, negate the Torrential to blink it, and then Stardust is going to come back in the end phase. And yeah, Torrential just being the MVP, one of the best trap cards in the deck, if not the best trap card in the deck. I love that card so much. Anyway, we go ahead and attack the Gale. I play a little bit bitch made around Gores because I can't kill him this turn. And if I summon Titanial, then it doesn't really matter. I'm dead to limiter removal because I'm at 4,000 because I was forced to Solemn a Gear Frame. So he gets to add the Future Fusion. Here he goes Future Fusion, and he makes, I think, what is a nervous mistake. So he sends, from his deck to the graveyard, he sends Cyber Dragon, and I'm going to let this play, and 3 Returner, 3 Jinzo, basically. What he should have done was only send 2 Returner and 2 Jinzo, because he does have Gale in the graveyard, and Gale is a Dark, and he does have Dark Armed in his hand. he's going to go ahead and slam all 3 Jinzo into play. And without really checking his graveyard or anything, he's going to slam Dark Arm Dragon into play. And I'm like, hold up there. I did kill the Gale. You do have 4 Darks. You're not able to summon the Dark Arm Dragon. And he gets a little bit nervous from this. Understandably so. Whenever you make a mistake on camera, it like immediately impacts your nerves. But, I mean, he's still looking pretty good here. I mean, as long as he has another, like, way to get through the Stardust Dragon, I mean, he's at least clearing my board. And that's a pretty good trade for 1 card. You know what I mean? Or 2 cards. Like, 2 cards getting rid of Stardust Raikou is, like, pretty good. And he does have that limited removal, and I'm like, well, fuck me. So he's going to be able to attack that Stardust Dragon, deal me a fuck ton of damage, drop me to 1,700. So, yeah, I'm at Earth. 1,300? 1,700? I don't know. Anyway, Raikou's going to mill 3. I got to pop the Jinzo that didn't attack, or else I just immediately lose. And he's going to go to the end phase and lose both his Jinzos. He passes. I draw for turn, and I think I did draw into Titanium, right? Or I milled it or something. I don't fucking know. I think I did, yeah. I think I see Titanium on my hand. Let me see if I can get that frame by frame real quick. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go frame by frame. See if I can get that see that Titanium. Yeah, it's right there. I can see it. So my Titanium is signed by Cutie Cinderella, and I can kind of tell on the right side of the card that it. So I drew Titanium. I ended up drawing into it, which I didn't open with it, but I bricked on it in an important, crucial moment where it would have been close to lethal here. I'm forced to go Lone Fire into Lone Fire, or Lone Fire attack, and then Lone Fire into Dandy. So I went Lone Fire once, Lone Fire attack for 500, and then Dandelion in defense. Hopefully trying to wall up for my life points so I don't just die randomly. But yeah, he just draws. Let's go. This is turn 1 for Future Fusion, so he doesn't want to play more cards into the Chimeritic Overdragon. It's going to blow up his whole board. On my turn, I have a couple of options. I could sack for Caius, target his Future Fusion, but then I play into Gores, and I lose. I could also just set a monster, and Caius isn't quite lethal here, so I just have to set up for Titanium next turn. I set a monster, I'm like, what could possibly happen, right? He draws for turn. Future Fusion is going to make Overdragon. It's going to blow up his board. Here, he's going to summon Dekoichi. He's going to Emergency Teleport, and he's going to have Bionic for game, which, fuck me, man. This deck is so threatening. Just like every combination of cards is an OTK. Every combination of cards. I went through Future Fusion, I went through Dark Arm Dragon, I went through Limited Removal, and he still has a way to get in the last few damage. I stopped even the Machina stuff, and it's just, like, everything this deck does is insane pressure, and you have to have specific out after specific out after specific out, and eventually you're just not going to have the out, and you're going to get fucking cooked. And I needed to get Titanium in play there, and I just couldn't, and so I lost game 1. And I'm just like, at this point, I don't think I've ever been as tilted as I've ever been in my life. Am I going to lose to Jinzo on camera? Am I going to get defeated by my favorite card on my birthday out here? Pain. Absolute pain. So I sideboard as much as I can. I believe I don't have much for this matchup. I side in the Cyber Dragons. I side in the DD Crow. And I think I sided in the Pulling the Rugs in some capacity to deal with Machina Gear Frame. So that's pretty much it. We go into game 2 here in a second. Let me just skip forward to the start of this game. I hope you guys are liking this video. It's a lot of content. It's a lot to consume, but I think this is quality stuff because it's showing your boy getting cooked, which is rare. I don't normally lose this much, honestly. But, you know, hey, it happens. I'm playing a new deck. I'm unfamiliar with zombies, so I didn't have the best sideboard for that, and the Blackwing player opened like a literal Jesus fucking Christ, and so, yeah, we're playing against Jinzo, which is one of the scariest decks in the format. Maybe kind of showing off why Quickdraw can be difficult to play. He summons Jinzo Returner, so showing off the weaker side of the Jinzo deck is it does have these Garnets, but they are able to pressure life points, and you may not think that it fucking matters, but it does. Because, like, all of a sudden, like, okay, he dealt me 600, next turn he deals me another 600, and then I'm just dead to, like, a random limiter removal. If I don't out this Jinzo Returner this turn, these pokes are going to add up really quick. And they're going to make it really difficult for me to ever leave monsters in attack position. I set monster, set back row, pass. He draws for a turn. He could even sack for the Jinzo right now if he had it. But he decides to just keep going for the pokes. He doesn't overcommit more. If I was him, I probably would have tried to commit more because you just need to start clearing this board, basically. He thinks for a very long time here. But yeah, just pokes for 600. And we drop to 68. On our turn, we draw Solemn Judgment. I'm like, okay, that feels pretty good. I can flip Hamster, get a Raikou. I can flip my other Raikou that I had set. Target his back row. he chains it, is Light Mirror. And I'm like, oh shit, that's interesting. He sided in Light Mirror just for 3 Raikou. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's not a very good deck building decision. Because when you go for Future Fusion and you summon your Jinzos, they shut off your Light Mirror and then you can't play through Raikou. Like, the whole point is so you can play through Raikou, right? But when you go for your play, you can't play through Raikou because Jinzo negates your Light Mirror. So I'm like, now I'm thinking, I see some weaknesses here. I see some weaknesses. And now he can't Gorge. Now he can't Trag. All of a sudden, all my confidence is back. I'm like, oh, wait, I got this. I got this in the bag. Don't even trip. You'll notice Titanial's in my hand, by the way. But I am going to be able to summon it. So 2 games in a row I've drawn Titanial. Pretty unfortunate, but once again, I think it's good. I think it's still fine. If you can get it into play, it's still fine drawing it. Like, it sucks, but if you can get it into play, it's fine. It's fine. I'm now 3 for 5 games drawing Titanial, which is kind of funny, but alas, here we are. Attacked over the Jinzo returner, and he's gonna read Titanial. I'm like, I can just sack it to negate anything that targets something on the field, or sack plant monsters. And I have 2 tokens because I have the Dandelion stuff. He's thinking here, he's thinking here, he's thinking here. He summons Fortress, and he decides to attack the token, I believe. Yeah, he attacks the token. I'm like, that's fine. I don't even care. I have Lone Fire in my hand. I have infinite Titanial negates. Dealing with Fortress is no problem for me. Lone Fire, sack the token. Go get Dandelion, I believe. Oh, go get another Lone Fire. Sack the other Lone Fire, and go get Dandelion in defense position. Once again, just being really cautious of my life total because of limiter removal. I'm at 6,800, so I don't randomly want to have 2 attack position monsters and die to Future Fusion limiter. I'm going to attack over the Fortress, deal 300. Fortress is going to activate, and I'm going to negate the effect, basically. So, yeah. Oh, no, he decides to pop Raikou. And I let it resolve, actually. I decided to keep all my Titanial negates because Raikou's negated by Light Mirror anyway. So I'm like, whatever. I'll take that trade. Raikou's actually worse than Lone Fire and Dandy in play. So, yeah, you can have the Raikou for the Fortress. I was like, that's the one thing he could have popped there that I didn't mind negating. Or I didn't mind not negating, I should say. He pitches Force, brings back Fortress. But once again, I can negate this all day. Like, this doesn't matter. This doesn't beat Titanial. So, even though I've drawn Titanial, I've gotten the position to be able to set it up. And I'm big chilling. So, this turn I draw something. I don't remember what I draw. I think it's Book. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's Book. I check my grave. And I'm like, I have hella monsters. Let's just shotgun this Avarice. No, let's Debris Dragon. Debris Dragon, activate, bring out DD Crow, make Starbucks Dragon, and get 2 tokens. And yeah, just fucking crushing right now. Just absolutely crushing. Because Stardust is going to stop that Mirror Force that he has set. Book of Moon would have also stopped it, but this is just the same, I'm going to sacrifice to ensure some damage rush. And now because I have that Book of Moon, I'm not scared of Future Fusion into limiter removal anymore. So, I'm actually chilling. I'm actually chilling right here. Checks the life. He's at 27. And I think we go to game 3 momentarily because I have the nuts set up. I have the Titanial Stardust, and there's just nothing he can do about it. He does have Brain Control. He does have Future Fusion. But Titanial negates that Brain Control. And Future Fusion isn't going to be enough without that limiter. So I attack with Titanial. He's just going to concede. He was going to drop Trag, but he's like, yeah, there's no point here. That's lethal damage. And yeah, we go to game 3. So going into game 3, I'm like, okay, Light Mirror is terrible, but maybe he thinks it isn't terrible because it negated 2 Raikous that game. So maybe he'll leave it in. There was a lot of other stuff where I was like, feeling pretty confident. I'll just say it. Feeling pretty confident going to the next game. I'm like, when you do something like side Light Mirror and Jinzo, you tell me that you don't fully understand how the Jinzo deck works, which makes me a lot less scared to play against it. Obviously, the Dark Arm thing, that could have just been a nerves thing, but then later on, I'm like, okay, we're both in the O2 bracket. We're probably both in the O2 bracket for a reason, so I'm feeling pretty confident about this. Not to say anything about my opponent, because I think as a player, he was pretty good. Like, he had a solid build. I think it was good. I just think it was like these tiny errors. And at the end of the day, it's those tiny errors that people can capitalize on. Like, in the first game against Zombies, like, I had too many guys that needed the graveyard, and my opponent had Book of Life. And it was a tiny deck building error for me that got punished. And then the next match, tiny errors from my opponent cost him, I think, game 1 on what he searched, like searching Gale, searching Blizzard. Tiny errors could have cost him game 2 if he didn't draw fucking double Whirlwind. So, yeah, it was just an interesting thing where, like, right now we're like fighting over micro percentages, but ultimately I think in a lot of cases the better deck and the better player come out on top. In at least I'd say 80% of the games that are played. So, it makes me feel a little bit more confident when I see players who like they're making these micro errors that I can exploit like later on. Basically, he sets 3 passes, and I'm like, I'm not even worried about set 3. I'm worried about that motherfucking future fusion. But it's okay. I have Lone Fire. Lone Fire, get Dandy. Wonder why I got Dandy here. I wonder why I got this Dandelion. No, actually, I don't have Titanium in hand, I don't think. I think I have Caius. But I learned from my mistakes. In the earlier game, when I went Lone Fire into Titanium post board, I realized that just traded 1-for-1 with Mirror Force, and it didn't facilitate my Caius in hand. This game, I've got Caius in hand. So I'm like, I'm going to go single Lone Fire into Dandy and set up for my Caius so I can get the tokens going and I can get my Caius going. And generally speaking, that's a little bit better than just having a raw Titanium with no extra negates. So I decided this game, I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm going to make a smarter play here. I draw Charge of Light Brigade. I'm going to cast it. I mill 3. I reveal Pulling the Rug. I believe I have one set as well. I search for Raikou. I decide to just set the Raikou. I want to flip the Raikou to Beta Light Mirror. I don't care about Light Mirror being face up, but I want to know which one it is so my Caius doesn't hit a dead back row. This turn he gets Future Fusion, but is he going to go for it into 3 back row? That's the real question. That's the real question. And the answer is no. He decides not to. And I think in this type of deck, this Machina Jinzo deck, one thing that players really need to learn how to do is go for value Future Fusions. I think he does have Solemn set. I could be wrong. But resolving Future Fusion, while it might not be game here, it can at least get him like a position, which is something. But I think he doesn't go for it, if I remember correctly. It also gets you set up so that Overload Fusion later in the game just immediately wins. So it's kind of like sometimes, yeah, Future Fusion is just not going to happen that game, and you kind of have to accept that. You know, like your opponent has 3 back row, so it's best to go for Future Fusion as early as possible to thin your deck for Overload, to set up for your Machina plays, to do whatever. But the awkwardness is of cards like Light Mirror, cards like setting back row in the Jinzo deck is you set them, and then you activate Future Fusion, these value Future Fusions, and then in 2 turns, you blow up all your own back row if I just don't do anything. So he's like stuck between a rock and a hard place here where he like can't really play the game. He does have Mind Control. He could have Mind Control my set monster. I don't know why he didn't, because he knew I had Raikou. I'm going to Raikou. It's going to hit a Compulsory, and I'm actually pretty happy about that, but he targets Dandy, and I'm like, I think I might have to set this Dandy. I think I might have to set it again so I don't die. I attack with the Raikou. I set the Dandy again, and I pass. So Compulsory there could have been used also on my Dandy that turn. He could have tried to go for something like Future Fusion, Chain Compulsory on Dandy, if I don't respond to Future Fusion, and then he can summon the Jinzos, or he could even chain to the Jinzo returner effects the Compulsory to bounce the Dandy if I don't do anything, and then all of a sudden, you know, I'm getting fucked. I'm getting fucking owned. Yeah, I think that's not a bad place to be. Anyway, where was I going with all this? Pardon me, I had to cough. Summon Jinzo Returner. He did end up drawing a few of the Garnets here. He's going to attack me for 600. I'm going to deprison it. I would have deprisoned it no matter what if it had attacked the Raikou or whatever, just because deprison doesn't get a lot of value in this matchup, and I just want to keep my life total high so I don't randomly die to that Future Fusion later. He passes a turn back. I draw for turn. I don't see what I drew, but I'm able to sack for Caius finally. Caius is going to target the middle back row, and he looks at it for a second. He said the Caius was fine, and I was like, are you sure you didn't want to summon this? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, we can go back if you want to. Just being a little bit courteous to my opponent because he looked at his Solemn Judgment like he had forgotten he had it. And like I said, because he had that Solemn, I think it would have been much better for him to go for the Future Fusion and the Compulsory. I actually think we would have lost this game. Straight up. I think we would have lost this game had he just played it right, which is a bit unfortunate on his part. A bit unlucky that he got a little too cautious and didn't go for the value plays when he had them, and now he's just like backfooting and he's falling pretty far behind, and I have Pulling the Rug on Machina Gear frame, and he's taking a bunch of damage. And yeah, I mean, at this point, like, you're locked into your normal summon plays. You would have to go for Future Fusion now to try and get a Jinzo to crash with the Caius to at least keep your board stable, but he still doesn't go for the Future Fusion. I think it's just one of those things where it's like yes, the card is your OTK piece, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it is your win con, but this deck has so many other win cons that you kind of need to use it as your opening win con a lot of the times to just make sure that your follow-up win cons can actually go through. Had he done the Future Fusion stuff earlier, that gear frame, you know, all of a sudden is looking a little bit scarier. Like, let's say a Jinzo sticks on a turn. For whatever reason, you can take that same turn to summon that gear frame. A lot of what the Jinzo deck is about is using Jinzo as a pseudo cold wave. So you'll go Future Fusion, summon Jinzo, or you'll tribute summon Jinzo, or you'll soul exchange into Jinzo, or your E-Tele sack for Jinzo, whatever. You'll use that as your cold wave, and then you still have your normal, and you still have your haymakers that you can go for after you get Jinzo in play. So what a lot of this deck is trying to facilitate that isn't just the Jinzo OTK is like summon Jinzo, and in the same turn also use a haymaker like Dark Arm, Chaos Sorcerer, or Machina Gear Frame. But yeah, I think that's just like a general knowledge of this deck and how it plays that comes with practice. You basically just need to practice and understand the theory behind the deck and like how it works and stuff like that. And I think the players who do understand that obviously have success because it crushed like 3 or 4 tournaments this weekend. So the deck is definitely going to be on a lot of people's radar moving forward. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully not actually. I fucking hate playing against it. It is terrifying to know that your opponent can just open an I win button. But yeah, so big thonk here. I book my Raikou. I decide to flip it, hit the back row, and say, fuck it. I'm going to play into Gores. I'm going to normal summon my monster and try to kill through Gores or something. I don't remember exactly what I do here, actually. I flip, I target Mirror Force, and I'm just like, damn, he could have Mirror Forced my Caius at any point the last few turns, but just didn't. And I think this is like a classic case of my opponent just not playing his cards. Like, holding his cards for the next game, basically. It's like, what are you holding them for? Like, you're going to lose to this Caius. You have to play the game. Like, at least stabilize. Your deck has powerful cards like Machina Gear Frame that can get you back in the game, and Dark Arm Dragon and Overload Fusion. So at least stabilize so you can give yourself a chance to draw those powerful cards, basically. Here comes Giant Trunade, but it's too little too late at this point. It's just going to be a Future Fusion for 1 Jinzo. He does have that Mind Control, but yeah. I'm using the Gorge token to represent the Dandy tokens here. He Mind Controls the Raikou. He's able to flip it. Is it Raikou? I don't remember what it was. I set a new monster. That's all I know. I tribute set Cyber Dragon. That's what it was. He goes Future Fusion, and yeah, tribute set Cyber Dragon to play around Future Fusion into Limiter. Basically, that's what I was playing around. But he finally goes for it. He's able to summon 1 Jinzo, but at this point, it's like too little, too late. He just doesn't have the sauce. And yeah, a lot of cards that could have been played for him this game. A lot of power cards. I DD Crow the Jinzo that would have come back, and I get really lucky to win this one. That's all I'll say. So we move on, 1-2. Not the worst situation. I'm going to sort of fast forward the end of the game. It's a pretty trivial win. He does have that Dark Arm Dragon, but I am able to Black Rose into just comeback plays, basically, with Titanium and whatnot. And yeah, that's pretty much how that game went. He was showing me after the game that he did leave in the Light Mirrors, and I just think that Light Mirror is a very weak card in that deck in general. Just because when you do summon Jinzo, it shuts off your Light Mirror, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having Light Mirror in the first place. So generally speaking, you want to have monster effects or spell effects that clear monsters, because you want to summon Jinzo first, then use those types of haymakers. All right, round 4, up against, and I'm, again, terrible with names. I'm so sorry I forgot your name. One of the coolest dudes, med student, really powerful duelist. He was playing Carpat's Chaos Fairies with a few changes, a few doctors. Him being a doctor, he deck doctored Carpat's deck, and I'm inclined to say that he made some good decisions. So this game, I didn't really know what he was about. You know what I mean? I didn't really know what he was up to. So we're kind of chilling. We're kind of vibing. I don't really know how to play against Chaos Fairies. I have never played this matchup in my life from the quick draw standpoint. I know how to play against regular fairies, which is basically you just try to get them to have too many fairies in the grave. You try to hit them with Iron Chain. That's the game plan. It's kind of silly, but like it's literally what you try to do. You try to get them to like about 4 fairies, and then you try to Iron Chain them to like 6. And then it's like, okay, you can't be Christiad, and then you average your way to a win somehow. But basically what you try to do is get them well over 4 fairies with like Iron Chain, Force Mill, and then you go from there. And that's the game plan, actually, ironically. Against Chaos Fairies, I've never played it, though, because they have Battle Faders. They have Gores, they have Tragodia, so they have a lot of other ways. I mean, regular fairies can play Tragodia too, but like Battle Faders is a way to stop you from going for that proactive mill. So I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here. He Herald of Oranges my Debris, and he pitches Sky Scourge and Rise. So immediately I know what he's doing. Immediately I'm like, okay, this is Chaos Fairies. It's probably a similar style matchup, but yeah, I'm not really sure. I believe there was actually a called shot here. Am I correct in saying there was a called shot? So I go Charge of Light Brigade, I believe. I cast that first thing, and I say the word Dandelion. And then the first card I flip No, that was later. I do that later in the tournament. Don't worry for it. Don't worry. I'll show you that when that comes up. He pokes me with a Shining Angel. I'm like, well, fuck, that's annoying. I have a shitload of Raikos and debris. I'm like, all right, I'll just set a Raiko and pass. Oh, this is on. I'm like, why is it so slow? It's because it's not on 2x, bro. I'm 2x pilled right now. I'm on that 2x crack. Anyway, I pass back the turn. And right now I'm just kind of chilling because, again, at this point, I thought the tournament was only 6 rounds. I didn't know. I just thought it was 6 rounds. So I thought, like, there's no way I can top, right? I was thinking, like, I can at least go undefeated to have a respectable record from this point. But there's no way I can top. But I'm just playing, like, hella chill. And I think that this was actually, like, a benefit for me. I didn't make a lot of, like, terrible players because I wasn't, like, worried about, like, playing well. I wasn't worried about anything. I was just playing just to play. And ironically, that, like, sort of mentality that I was in, that mentality of, like, I can't possibly top, I'm just playing to do well for myself, is like an interesting mentality that let me be a lot more relaxed in, like, matchups that I had no experience in, like Jinzo or Chaos Fairy or all these new matchups, basically. I special summon Quickdraw here. I synchro into Drill Warrior, and I'm like, I'm just going to poke him with Drill Warrior a bunch. Fuck it. This is probably good, right? So I have the drill. I attack for 12. He doesn't have Fader or anything. He thinks for a while, so I'm like, oh, he probably has Fader. But you know what? He's just going to take the 12, and main phase 2, I'm going to pitch, banish my drill, and I'm like, hey, maybe this works. Maybe his deck can't answer Resolve Drill that easily without his Herald. And he's already used Herald, so I'm like, all right. Yeah, maybe he can't handle it. And if he ever does use Herald, I can put him to 5 fairies pretty easily. I'm going to Raiko pop the Shining Angel, puts him to 3 fairies, which is pretty good. And we mill Dandy, so we get 2 tokens, which is really nice. Honestly, the game is sort of shaping up well for me, despite him having the card advantage, because I have this active drill. Drill Warrior is so fucking broken. I've said this a million times before. I think it's the second best synchro in Edison format, by a wide margin. I actually think it's better than Yugioh. I think it's better than Stardust by a lot. And the fact that this deck can summon it, like, the only issue with drill is, like, how hard it is to summon. I attack directly for 24, but he does have a Battle Fader here. A little bit annoying, but do what you can, right? Sacrifice for Kai's, target the Fader. He goes to take 1,000. I'm like, no, you don't take 1,000, because actually it's banished by, what was I saying? I was saying something. It's banished by some fucking thing. I don't know. Banished by its own effect. That's what it is. It's not banished by Kai's effect. Anyway, here he crosses me the fuck up with Cyber Dragon into Herald of Orange, into 4 fairies, into Christia, and I lose. And I was just like, oh, I guess they play that. I guess they play Cyber Dragon in the main so that they can go Black Rose into Christia. I guess that's something that deck can do. And I'm like, oh, well, all right, cool. Well, I drew bottomless. I'm like, all right, I'm just dead. And it's the slow Christia death. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I've lost game 1 to Jinzo. I've lost game 1 to Fairies. I've lost game 1 to all the decks that people expect me to play. And I'm like, man, I could have been playing these decks. I could have been playing these crazy decks with these busted ass monsters. Instead, I'm sitting here summoning a Raiko, milling a Dandelion in the year 2023, like trying to make some shit happen, drawing Titanial in the year 2023. I get mind controlled. He flips, it's Debris Dragon. I'm like, all right, just end it, please. Just attack me. I'm like, I have nothing. My back row is bottomless. I remind him that even if he had a level 3 or lower monster, he couldn't synchro because of Christia. He attacks for 1,800. He just plays it real safe. And honestly, smart decision. He can't lose. He literally can't lose from the spot as long as he plays it safe. There's literally nothing that could go wrong for him. Eventually, he'll find a way to just do this shit, you know? He's going to activate, banish his Shining Angel, attacks the set monster, reveals it's Sangan. Sangan's going to search for me. I'm going to grab Morphing Jar to try and get back in the game because I just have no fucking cards. And I just need cards to get back in the game. But he sets a monster. I'm like, well, shit, that's a Raiko. I draw for turn. I'm like, okay, maybe he flips Raiko and he mills fairies. I'm going to go Caius. And this was my biggest mistake. I didn't attack his set monster. I should have attacked his set monster to try and mill him up over 5 fairies. And I messed up. It was really bad. It was a really, really bad play to not attack the set monster. And I was like, fuck. I punted this so hard. And it's going to cost me not much because, as you'll see, he mills 0 fairies. So it wouldn't have mattered. And he's just going to kill me because my life total's so low. I'm at 100 here. So he can just go Red Dragon attack. And I was like, all right, Cool. Another reason why I couldn't attack the set monster, because he just pops my Caius and I lose. So there's that. Alas, here we are. Here we are, sideboarding against Chaos Fairies. Now, I actually do know how to play against fairies, regular fairies, and I think that game plan actually does even better versus Chaos Fairies. So Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer is one of the best cards against fairies because it makes it very impossible for them to ever get to 4 fairies, basically. Like, unless they have like ways to proactively mill, like Card Trooper specifically, it's just going to be really difficult for them to get to 4 fairies because you can just hit them with Kaiku and banish 2 cards. And banishing 2 fairies, that's a lot of fairies. They can't crash recruiters into Kaiku because then you just, for every one that they get, you get banished 2. So it's like, they can never get that 4 fairy setup, basically. It is a little awkward because they can crash DLK into it, but like, whatever, you know? And then Soul Release, pretty good. Just keep them off the fairies. As long as they can't Christia me, the matchup is pretty easy. But if they can Christia me, then it's pretty bad. The reason I think this matchup in particular is pretty easy is because unlike the other fairy deck, they don't play like... They can play Doom Caliber and Thunder King, and I think they should over like Battle Fate or Caius. I think Battle Fate or Caius is kind of a meme, but they usually don't. They usually play the Carpath like Battle Fate or Caius garbage, which is very easy to play around. Let's be real. And they also play Royal Decree instead of like Real Back Row like Royal Oppression. So like it's very difficult for this deck to win without Christia, specifically Chaos Fairies, to win against Quickdraw without Christia. And I'm like, okay, my game plan is just keep him off Christia. Kaiku's also nice. It doubles as stopping Enrise and Chaos Sorcerer. And Dark Armed if he plays it. I don't know if he does. Some people do. Most people don't. I don't fucking know. It just stops a lot of the payoff cards from the deck. So as long as I can protect him with like Deep Prison or like Book of Moon or whatever and keep Dialk out of play, then we're big chillin'. And maybe we can just have a victory that way thanks to Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. And they don't have back row like Bottomless or Deep Prison or Mirror Force or whatever, really, to deal with Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. It's pretty much going to go unchallenged as long as they don't draw specifically Dialk or DD Warrior Lady. And I know that Carpath only plays one DD Warrior Lady, which I think is a deck building error. I think playing multiple DD Warrior Lady is definitely correct in any sort of Shining Angel deck. I think you just need to see that card. It immediately turns on your Dialks. It immediately, like, it's like the best thing to get off Shining Angel, usually. So, yeah, I'm going to skip forward the siding portion where we're, like, siding for 8 million years. We spent a long time siding here because he didn't know how to side against Quickdraw, and yeah, so game 2, I get to go first. My opening hand is pretty solid. I have Snowman Eater, I have Heavy Storm. I left in Heavy Storm to deal with Royal Decree because I need my trap cards. So I set 2 and pass. I think I set Dust Tornado, Heavy Storm. He knocks my Snowman. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Snowman's just pretty good against this deck. Like, it just walls them, gives you time, lets you set up Caius. I have Foolish. I'm going to send Dandy. I'm going to get 2 tokens, which is based. I love drawing Foolish Burial early in this game, or in this deck. I set 1 more back row, and I set 1 monster. He didn't Heavy Storm me last turn, so I don't think he has Heavy Storm, basically. That's what I'm thinking, at least. He sets back row and passes. Maybe I didn't have Dust Tornado. I sacrificed a token to tribute summon Quickdraw. I set 1 back row, and I flip Morphing Jar. My son. Give me that sweet, sweet +5 nectar. Alas. And I'm like, if he heralds me here, then I make drill. And I'm just crushing. And if he doesn't herald me here, then I'm just crushing. He chains Torrential, and I'm like, that's fine. I'll draw 5 still. And I get to discard 5 of his cards, and you'll notice I discard 2 Caius Gores, Christia, and Chaos Sorcerer. So a lot of those payoffs that I was worried about are now gone forever. So I'm like, honestly, big chillin'. I have 9 cards. He has 5. I have Charge of Light Brigade. I'm going to mill 2 Debris Dragon, which is kind of sad, but whatever. I've already summoned this turn. I tribute summoned Quickdraw, so I can't summon anything. I'm just charging to get the last Raikou out of the deck and hopefully mill Dandelion. I just pass the turn. I think I have Book, Heavy Storm, Torrential, and 1 Unknown. I don't remember what the last one is, but I'm pretty sure I remember having Book, Heavy Storm, and Torrential here. He T-sets, passes. I draw for turn. It is... I don't remember what I drew. I set a monster and pass. But I'm just up so many cards here. It's going to be hard for him to come back. And I have, like, life total advantage. I have so much good back row. He summons DD Warrior Lady. I'm like, all right, I'm going to Bottomless. He's going to chain Decree. I'm going to chain Torrential. Okay, Bottomless was the unknown. And then I have Sangan set. So I'm going to be able to clear Honest and DD Warrior Lady just for Torrential and Bottomless. And I'm going to force the Decree face up, which is nice. It'll give me an opportunity to use my set heavy at some point, too, as well. And it means that he can't use his trap cards like Return. I'm going to summon Lone Fire. I'm going to go Lone Fire into Lone Fire. He's going to Herald on the second Lone Fire. Smart play from him, by the way. Wait till both Lone Fires are out of the deck so that I can't top deck the second one and go into Titanial that way. He's revealing 4 fairies to me, and I'm like, well, fuck. You don't have it. There's no way you have it. But he does. He actually does have the second Christia. Now, I know sometimes they only play 2 Christia, but I know the real ones play 3, and I'm pretty sure he's on 3 because I know he mentioned making a few changes to Carpath's list in between the games. So I was like, he's probably on 3 Christia, so it's not the craziest thing. I do have Brain on the Christia. I can attack for 2,800, and I can restack that Christia. Or I could Book of Moon it and then sack it for Caius. I could book it and then sack it for Caius. It would go to the graveyard that way. I decided it's better to just do things this way. He's going to special Sidra, and I'm like, that's fine. Do your worst. Sidra doesn't do anything. He's going to attack. I'm going to book the Sidra. I'm feeling pretty confident here, honestly. He has Honest. So he can do the rare defense position Honest play, but I have ways to get around it. I look at my grave. I'm like, damn. I drew Avarice. I'm the GOAT. I'm going to Avarice. I'm going to call first, bait the Crow, target Lone Fire, and then I Avarice next. There's an argument to going Avarice and then chaining Call on whatever he would Crow, but that's just stupid because I would only ever want to call Lone Fire, and he would never Crow Lone Fire. He would just Crow Dandy or the other cards. So this way at least I just get to draw 2 new cards, and I think that's better than having a Lone Fire in play here. I draw Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and I'm like, well, I win. So that's that. Caius attacks, Kaiku attacks, it connects, and I just get to banish 2 fairies, and now that Christia is never coming back. So that's all there is. That's all she wrote. Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer destroying the ghosts of my enemies and making sure they can't do any crazy stuff. MVP card for sure. Kaiku and Morphing Jar absolutely putting on a masterclass this episode, and I have a second Caius targeting the set monster, and we're going to go to the next game. So that was a pretty solid game for Morphing Jar, pretty solid showing for that. Pretty happy I included it. One of my friends, Jacob, who's been playing this deck a lot, he says that you kind of have to play Morphing Jar because it's like your Future Fusion. It's like your free win card. And after that game, I'm inclined to agree. That game would have been really difficult had I had to play through Gores, Caius, Christia, Chaos Sorcerer, all those things, and with no cards in hand, basically. So, Morphing Jar, disgusting card. Particularly against the decks that can't set very many cards, like Chaos Fairy, like Frogs, like those types of decks, basically. So, moving into Game 3, I don't adjust much with the sideboarding. I'm just pretty happy with my deck. I don't really know the matchup too well, so I'm going to stick to my fundamentals and just hope it carries me to a second victory so I can mount some sort of comeback in this tournament and end up positive or whatever. And as you can see, I'm tapping my Titanial for the camera there. I've opened up with Titanial yet again. I don't know exactly what my stats are thus far on drawing Titanial, but it's about 50-50. I've opened it in about half my hands, or drawn it in about half my hands. Attacking DD Warrior Lady, he doesn't banish Sangan. I'm like, well, that's fucking crazy. Now this Sangan is going to exist. You know what I mean? Like, now I have Sangan. And what can you do? I have Soul Release in my hand, so I'm like, alright. He's going to Dialk banish Herald. I'm like, damn, that's crazy, dog. He attacks the Sangan. I'm going to deprison Dialk. 2 cards banished now for him. He's going to pass. I'm going to set a monster, switch my Sangan, and pass. Now, if he has Caius here, he could Caius my Sangan, which would be annoying. I'm not going to lie. I would completely shut off my hand, but I do have Dandelion, and I do want to search my Quickdraw. I only have 1 Quickdraw in post board, just because it gets fucking destroyed by Herald of Orange, but it is still, like, a really good card to, go for that Drill Warrior. Like, it's still good enough that I want to keep the 1. He attacks into the Hamster instead of attacking the Sangan, and he's going to Herald the Hamster. So getting 2 fairies in his grave. So 2 fairies closer to Christia, which is a little bit scary. On my turn, I'm like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to just force proc my Sangan, because I really don't want him to banish it at this point. I'm going to summon Debris. I'm going to synchro with that Sangan, and I am going to make Ancient Fairy Dragon. I'm okay with losing my Ancient Fairy to Honest here, or DD Warrior Lady, and I have Quick Draw for follow-up. And he just spent his Herald, so I'm like, what if he has another Herald for my Quick Draw, then he has no hand. Although it is a little bit scary to go for it, because he could set up for Christia here. This forces him to either Herald my Drill, or basically Herald my Drill and not use Honest, or Herald my Drill and use Honest and go to 5 fairies, basically. Gonna banish with the Warrior Lady. Main phase 2, I'm going to banish my Drill Warrior by pitching Titanial, of course. And the reason I was so comfortable with this again is also because I have that Soul Release. So I'm able to Soul Release and just banish his fairies and just keep him off Christia forever. And Drill's active, and I have 2 tokens, or I have 1 token, and it's just going to be impossible for him to ever get anything going with no graveyard. And I have Drill Dandy, and so that's pretty much the nuts here. He asked if it targets. I said it doesn't. He would have to chain to the Drill, target the Dandy. I let him do it. I go Drill, comes back, and then instead of adding back Dandy, I just add back Hamster because I'm like, Hamster's pretty good here. It walls the Dialk. It walls the everything else he can summon. Grabs me Raikou. Raikou makes Dialk miss timing, and it just gets me a massive advantage. I pitch Bottomless because it's like pretty bad when he has a back row. I'm pretty sure his back row is just Royal Decree. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pitch Bottomless, set my Hamster, and be pretty safe here. If he has Caius, it's annoying, it's cringe, it's whatever, but you know, I haven't really taken that much damage, and I have Morphing Jar to sort of like rebuild. So he's going to attack the Hamster. I'm going to go grab Raikou. He no longer has a Herald for this Hamster. He knew the Hamster was there. He didn't activate the Dialk. He took a little bit of damage he didn't need to take by not activating the Dialk. I think it was just a fatigue error. This was a long match. This was a 42-minute match, and he's never played the matchup before, and like this was also round 4 of like a pretty grueling tournament with fairies. I attack directly with Drill. He drops Battle Fader, and I'm like, okay, well, I lose if he tribute summons Caius or Christia, kind of. So I have to flip Raikou here to pop the Battle Fader, but it was a little bit weird. I have to pass back because I couldn't let him tribute summon the Christia. He's gonna attack the Raikou, and I was actually low enough where double Honest would have killed me, but I don't think he has it. So I think he only has single Honest. I get back the something here. I'm not sure what I get back. Probably Raikou. Doesn't really matter what I get back. I get back Debris. That makes sense, I guess. Effect to have, attack for 1200, dropping my opponent to 3000. He's going to drop Trag, and I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. But at least now I've drawn Book of Moon. So like even if he does tribute summon Christia, I can book it in my draw phase and still bring back Drill Warrior. And Royal Decree can't stop that. So I have Book of Moon, so I feel safe here. Not going awkwardly into this Tragodia to try and blow it up. He could pitch a 4-star monster and steal my Hamster now, which is annoying and ugly. And he could drop Caius, and we could lose, but he just doesn't have any of those things. And so there was one moment where it was like pretty scary for me. I didn't set the Book of Moon because I needed to save it against Typhoon, against Tribute Summon Christia. But now we can turn the corner and finally start to actually win the game. I set Raikou, and now even Brain Caius isn't going to do it. So there was a one risky turn, but I decided to risk against Typhoon because it wasn't gone yet. And oh no, Typhoon was gone. I'm just bad. It could have been Dust Tornado, I guess. I decided not to risk setting my book in case it was Heavy Storm. If he had Heavy Storm double sack for Christia, then I could lose, basically. And that's a little bit, obviously, like Brain Caius is different, but I think it was about as likely that he had Brain Caius that he had Heavy Storm Christia, but he also could have had Dust Tornado Christia, or he could have had just other ways to summon Christia, basically. I think it was better to keep the book in hand, more or less. This turn, I go ahead and add back Titanial because I want to get Brain Control off the table, and I also want to threaten. So I'm going to Brain Control him. He's going to give me the Dialk. I am going to activate the Dialk, I believe. Banishing Charge. Attack for 18. He has Battle Fader. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let's just Tribute Summon Christia. Oh, flip Raikou, pop the back row. It was Heavy Storm, so it's a good thing I waited on saving my book. And then I'm going to Tribute Summon Titanial here, and I'm going to pitch to Banish Drill, and I have Book of Moon still in my hand. I don't know why I didn't set it there. That's just a misplay on my part. That's also fatigue on my part. I definitely should have set it because I'm dead to like double honest shit here. But yeah, I definitely should have set it. That was a dumb play. Heavy Storm and Typhoon are gone. I just wasn't paying attention. I'm also kind of checked out at this point because I'm thinking like, oh, I can't top. So I'm mostly just playing for my record at this point and to see cool shit happen, you know? Tribute Summon Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon attacks the Titanial, and I'm like, damn, did I punt this? But he only has one honest. And so I survive at a very, very low life total. Drill comes back. I'm able to add back Card Trooper, I believe. And I decide to just go for a game at this point. Although it's a little risky, He's used 2 Battle Faders, I think, or 1 Battle Fader. I pitch Banish. No, I don't. Oh, yeah, I go for game this way. I contact with the Cyber Dragon. I make Chimera Tech. I switch to the Hamster. I attack for 11. And he reveals Royal Decree and Christia. So he would have been able to Heavy Storm and Tribute Summon Christia on that turn had I set my book. So it's a good thing I played around it. I think a little lucky on my part that I played around that specifically. But definitely a mistake on my end not setting the book on the later turn once the Heavy Storm was gone. A lot of stuff to learn from this match. This matchup is really interesting. I think as long as you have enough Graveyard Hate, it's fine. It's like totally manageable. But if you don't have Graveyard Hate, this matchup is probably terrible for Dandelion. It's probably so bad because Christia just beats his deck outright. You have to keep them off Christia. That is the only way that you guaranteedly lose. The other ways you can lose, like you can lose from like Damage Shove and like Caius and Herald shenanigans, but you definitely lose if they Christia you. So you have to have an answer to that, basically. All right, round 5. So I'm 2-2 now, battling for a positive record. I get paired against Josh. I remember Josh's name because I saw Josh throughout the rest of the tournament. Shout out Josh. Josh had a really cool deck. I'm really excited to show you guys this one. This deck is really sweet. So I lose rock paper scissors. I think I lose it. I'm like, why is it moving so slow? It's because we're not on 2x, bro. We gotta get on 2x. Anyway, I open up with Titanium. So classic, drawing Titanium. But I've got Quickdraw. I've got Debris. I just need Dandy. But Josh has got their powerful one of, which is Future Fusion. I swear I open Titanium that much. I should open Future Fusion that much too, right? Like that's what I deserve, right? Kappa. Anyway, they're gonna send Blazewing, Butterfly, and Gigaplant. I'm like, oh shit, it's fucking on. It's fucking on. Another matchup I've never played before, which is really hype. And they open up with Lone Fire 2, which is just like crazy. And they have Titanials. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, is this just straight up like Gemini plants? Because that's hype. And then they activate Black Garden. And I'm like, bro, how do I play this game? I literally can't play this game right now. I'm like, fuck. So I'm basically forced to set Card Trooper. I'm going to try to Black Rose the field. So I'm not setting my compulsory because I just want to Black Rose the field. Titanial's going to attack. It's going to be Card Trooper. I'm going to draw a new card. And they're going to set a back row and pass the turn back to me. I'm going to draw Dandelion. And I'm going to normal summon Dandelion. Or Debris Dragon. I'm going to try to special summon Card Trooper. And that's just going to work. This is all just going to work. I'm going to mill 3 for cost. And I hit 3 monsters. So all of a sudden, I think this is a turning point in the tournament where I've drawn my last Titanium, right? I've gotten my last bad luck out of my system. I start milling good cards. I start milling monsters. Black Rose is going to resolve into all these back row. My opponent doesn't bottomless the black row, although they could have. I go Quick Draw Dandy. I'm just living. I ripped Dandy off the Card Trooper draw. I'm able to make Drill Warrior. I'm able to hit for 24, and I'm like, yes, I am crushing it right now. I'm absolutely dominating right now. And I'm just going to pitch Titanium, set my back row, and pass. But it isn't over yet, all right? Heavy Storm is going to clear both my back row. And I'm like, well, fuck. Their hand was insane. Normal Summon Blazewing, activate Supervise. And I'm like, jeez. Am I just dead? Because they launch the Blazewing. They get Gigaplant. Supervise gets them another Blazewing. Gigaplant brings out Titanium. What an insane comeback. Like, what an insane way to come back after being completely nuked for 4 cards. Supervise plus Blazewing is able to let them rebuild their entire board, basically. Gigaplant's going to activate, bring out Lone Fire. Lone Fire is going to activate, and I'm like, did they play another Titanium? That's crazy. And guess what? Guess what? They do. They play multiple Titanium. I'm like, oh shit. That's crazy. Blazewing attacks, and we're going to take 5,200 here, which is really bad. Just kidding. We're only going to take 24. They activate Black Guard in main phase 2. Now, I think that this was a big error from the opponent. If they had activated Black Guard in main phase 1, they could have attacked pretty safely with Gigaplant and Titanium into Agors, and it wouldn't have been an issue. Alas, because they waited till main phase 2, they don't get to connect with Titanium here. I bring out Drill. I get to add back a... My game plan now is to wall up with Ancient Fairy Dragon, but I don't realize that yet because I'm just like kind of tilted that my opponent has a good board. So I'm going to grab back Debris Dragon, and I'm like, what do I do? I guess I'll just Debris. Give him a token. Get my Dandelion. Make Ancient Fairy in defense. Oh, I guess I did realize it. Drill have again. Or no drill have again. Just attack a token. What I should have done was attack directly. It's just missing damage. And I should have left the board locked. I didn't realize. Big error here. Big error. Gigaplant can bring out tuners from their deck. Big error on my part. I think there was a lot of errors this game on both of our parts. But me attacking that token was definitely a mistake. Because it gives them an opportunity to summon and put tokens on my side of the field. Which gives them direct attacks. Which is really, really bad. So they go Lone Fire. They give me another token. I'm just like, geez, dude, I do not want these direct attacks. Here comes Nettles, and now my board is full. So if they just leave my board full, I don't get the Drill Warrior back. And I'm fucked. So they Synchro off. They make Starbucks Dragon. The Starbucks Dragon is halved. Uses the alternate art Stardust Dragon, which, come on, man. Come on. You got to get a better Stardust Dragon than that, all right? I know this tournament was for a better Stardust Dragon, and you stood a chance to win one, so you don't want to buy one before the tournament. But now that the tournament's over, you gotta go get a better looking Stardust, all right? Makes Blackbird Drago, gets halved by Black Garden, and I'm just sitting here like, I am so fucked. All they have to do is pass. But they decide to attack the face-up token. I take 450. They attack the face-up token. I take another 700. I drop to 44. They attack my Dandelion token. And then they attack into Ancient Fairy, and I'm like, go to damage. And they're like, Ancient Fairy was halved. And I was like, Black Garden only halves attack. It doesn't have defense. So they take 200. And yeah, I got pretty lucky there. They didn't leave my board locked. I was able to get Drill. And now I can lock their board. And I can keep poking them. And as long as they don't find a way to clear my Ancient Fairy Dragon, I can just win this game. Straight up. By drill poking. Now that's really ambitious because they have like at least 10 draw steps here. They're at like 6,000 or something like that. No, 5,000. They have 8 draw steps or something like that. But it's still, it's a route to victory. I'm the one applying the pressure now. I am the captain now. They attack, clear the Dandelion tokens, pass back. Switch the tokens, pass back. They should have switched their synchros as well, but, marginal stuff. Drill comes back. I check my grave. I decided to just add back Dandy, like, whatever. I should have made an army of Ancient Fairies. I should have made 2 of them, but alas, here we are. Pitch, banish Drill after hitting for 600. Pass the turn. They draw. What's the plan? What's the plan, Josh, man? Attacks the tokens. Passes the turn back after setting a back row. My turn, I draw. I draw another quick draw, so I'm like, okay. I can start getting crazy with it. I'm going to have attack for 600. And I could make another Drill here. And I don't. For no reason. I should have made another Drill. That was a huge mistake. I think I needed one more card to be able to banish both. But I could have been wrong. I should have made another Drill. Drill comes back. We get Dandelion back. I attack for 600. I pitch Dandelion. I get 2 tokens. Pass back again. Definitely should have done it there. Huge mistakes on my part not making double Drill. Gigaplant, pitch to pop the D-Prison. Man, Black Garden is such an interesting card. I was going to play it for this tournament, but then the judge asked me not to. And I was like, all right. He's like, I don't know the ruling. I was like, all right. Shit, I'll just play a different deck then. I add back Black Rose this time off Drill because I'm thinking maybe I can get a turn where I Black Rose and then double Drill for game. But I'm pretty far off from that. I'm at least 1 turn off from that. I'm going to normal summon Debris here. Bring out the Dandelion. Synchro into the second Ancient Fairy. And get 2 tokens off Dandelion. And unfortunately for me here, my opponent has the Torrential. And I lose both my Ancient Fairies. And I'm like, fuck. Now I'm just fucked. Because Brute Drago floats into Gigaplant. I get a token in attack position. I have to set my back row, which is Mirror Force, but they can very easily play around it by just making a Stardust. So I lose. I super punted this game by just not playing it. Once again, story of this tournament is like not playing the game. It gets you punished. So play to your game plan, understand your game plan, stick to it. This turn takes a little while to execute, but it is a game shot. They show me that they are playing Copy Plant and Mark of the Rose, and they are able to steal my Rose token and attack for game. So going into game 2, I'm like, well, shit, this matchup seems miserable. Black Garden's really frustrating. I'll just keep in all my spell trap hate. I'm going to side in maybe Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer to shut off Mark of the Rose. and I'm going to side in my breakers. I'm going to keep it super simple. Maybe trap hole, maybe not, but just those cards for sure. The breakers and the Kaiku the Ghost Destroyers for sure. And I'm just going to go into this game and try to better deck him, because I feel like my deck has more consistent draws than his deck. He has multiple Titanial, he has multiple Gigaplant, he has multiple Black Garden, he has multiple Mark of the Rose, he has Copy Plant, he has Nettles, he has like all these cards that are just, they're not good on their own. Like, you need to have a facilitator. That game, he had Future Fusion, he had Lone Fire. Okay, he had the facilitators, but what are the chances he has those facilitators every single game? Pretty low, honestly. So I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to better deck him, and I'm going to try to rush him with Synchro Monsters. I'm going to leave in my Call of the Haunted, and I'm just going to try to go full aggro, like try to attack with everything possible. I think what I sided out, I don't remember what I sided out. I was looking at all these cards, and I'm like, what should I side out? I think I ended up siding out a good number of my flip monsters, if I remember correctly. Anyway, moving into the next game. I'm going to skip forward to the sideboarding portion. Reset the life total, and we are underway. This hand I open up with Quickdraw Dandy, and I'm like, well, I'm the GOAT. So, yeah, like I said, sometimes you just better deck people because you have Quickdraw Dandy, and your deck's insane. And I have Breaker. I have 2 Breakers. I pitch Breaker. I set Sangan. I pass. I could have made a Stardust there, but there's no reason to make Stardust into Lone Fire with no back row, basically. So, no reason for me to make a Stardust quite yet. It's better to hold the debris and potentially Black Rose him. I know that seems counterintuitive to what my game plan is, which is just rush him, but like it's just better this way. Sangan can search me another debris too, so I can just stream Stardust later. And he did end up having the Lone Fire, so I'm super happy I did not make Stardust and risk myself getting destroyed there. Even something like Lone Fire Mark of the Rose just deletes me. It ends the game. He goes for Nettles, which is interesting. I'm surprised to see him go for Nettles. He attacks the set monster. It's Sangan. Probably just wanted to get his Nettles blown up, but I end up searching Lone Fire, I believe, because I just want to get my own Titanial, because, again, I'm just reverse aggroing. That's the game plan. He opened up with Future Fusion Lone Fire again, and I'm just like, bruh, what are the chances? What are the chances? But at least this time I'm going first, and I have my Nut Draw, which is Quickdraw Dandy, so I'm like not upset by it by any means, but pretty crazy that we both opened really well. So kind of get to see how that works out. Drill's going to come back here. Drill's going to add me back. I believe Sangan, no, Dandelion, or Quickdraw? Question mark? Yeah, it's Quickdraw. Yeah, I think I decided to go for like a big major push this turn. Because like I said, I just wanted to like put him on like 0 turns. I wanted to have double drill and put him below 24. So yeah, just Lone Fire, Titanial, keep it simple. Didn't draw the Titanial this game. Titanial attacks, deal 16, attack for 48, put to 16, and then pitch my hand. Can't Mark of the Rose me because Titanial would negate it. And I'm just going to pass, and both drills will be game. So, I had the nuts this game. Goes for Mark of the Rose on the gate. Sets monster, passes. I draw for turn. Drill comes back. Doesn't matter what I add back because I'm just winning. Doesn't matter what I add back because I'm just winning this turn. I'm just looking at my graveyard to flex. Grab Dandelion. In case he has a Battle Fader, I guess. Attack for 24, and that's going to be the game. And we'll go next. So, really fast start from Quickdraw. The deck actually does a really good job of killing people quickly. And putting yourself in a position to reversal people as well. Like, we had Debris Dragon that whole game. We could have Black Rosed had things gone poorly at any point that game. I don't remember what I stood up for here. Oh, there was a fight that, like, broke out. And I stood up here to go take care of the fight, I think. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was something like that. I don't know if that had happened, like, yeah, I think there was a fight that broke out, and I went to go get the security or whatever. So, funny stuff. Someone had like scammed someone on a trade, and there was some angry words being exchanged loudly. So I was like, oh, we better put a stop to this before it gets serious. So, yeah, I had got up to go do that, but no big deal. Match should be over. We're here like 30 minutes in. Shouldn't be a problem to finish the match within a reasonable amount of time, which is 45 minutes. But yeah, I start off with, what the fuck happened? I skipped too much. All right, we're going second this game. I tap the deck. I say, fuck it, do your worst. Set monster, set back row, no Future Fusion, no Lone Fire, and I'm just like ecstatic here. I'm going to go charge mill 3. I hit 3 monsters. I'm like, damn, my luck really is turning around. His His deck is really sick, and it is scary. It's terrifying. It has OTK potential. It has Mark of the Rose and stuff like that, but I have Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. I have all my good shit going. I have Raikou set. So I'm like, damn, dude. This is just all gas. It's all fire. End phase Phoenix Wing hits my Call of the Haunted, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little tricky. That's a little tricky. But we can still try to make it work. And then he reveals he has his own Raikou to pop my Raikou. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good too. Mill's a plant monster, so Gigaplant is now online, but does Mill Supervise and Future Fusion, and does open up with Lone Fire 3 games in a row. And I'm just like, dude, how many Lone Fires are you playing? Bro, dude, stop. Stop having this. I take 3,000, sets 1. I am phase Dust. They elect to let that through. They didn't negate with Titanium. I'm like, okay. All right. We take those. We have Call of the Haunted. I'm going to go Lone Fire into Titanium. And I'm going to go Titanium Crash. I know this may seem silly, but to not attack the Raikou and force them to crash. But I wanted to soul release their monsters so they couldn't Mark of the Rose me. And I wanted to get all of the plants out of there. I also wanted to get the Mark of the Rose out of the graveyard in case they did play Hidden Armory. So next turn they couldn't Hidden Armory and then play Mark of the Rose in the same turn, basically. So yeah, here comes Cactus Bouncer. Really cool card, but thankfully for us, no plants anywhere to be seen. I'm going to call Titanium on the attack. And I'm going to get my second Titanium activation going here. I have Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. My son, he's going to prevent any sort of Mark of the Rose shenanigans here. So we are going to go for it. I'm going to attack over the Raikou, attack over the Bouncer, deal 1,000, and pass back. And we're kind of in the driver's seat. We drew our graveyard hate cards. We are able to spam our boss monster. And there's no real threat outside of like DDR, Pitch, Dandelion. I don't even know. Anyway, here comes another Cactus Bouncer. Attack the Kaiku. That's going to unlock Mark of the Roses for the opponent. I draw for turn. What did I draw? I don't even see what I drew there. I didn't see what I drew. It's a back row. I'm going to set it. I'm not going to attack, and I'm going to pass. It must be Dust Tornado. That's what it was, yeah. Now I'm going to dust the back row. They're going to chain Phoenix Wing. So it was the third Phoenix Wing. A little bit not expected, but I'm going to Titanium to negate it. I do have Debris Dragon. And you know what? I said, fuck it. Your life total's kind of low. I'm going to make Black Rose. I'm going to force the issue. I thought about going for Iron Chain, but I'm like, no, this is better. Iron Chain can attack over Gigaplant, but both Lone Fires are gone. So there's not really a great way for them to get Gigaplant into play as it stands. So I attack for 24. And now if they just draw like copy plants, they can't really wall out with it. Because I can just banish plants and keep dealing damage. And lo and behold, they drew a copy plant. And I get to connect for another 24. They're dead next turn. I have Solemn Judgment. They have 2 cards. It's like, what do you do here? Debris Dragon is so good at just pressuring the opponent. And that's exactly what happened. Josh concedes after having no plant monsters to bring back with Miracle Fertilizer because of our soul release. And not being able to do anything with the Blazewing that was meaningful, basically. So, yeah, it worked out really well for us there. We were able to take down what I think is probably a hard matchup. Cactus Bouncer looks really difficult to deal with. Spammable Gigaplant looks really difficult to deal with. I think Josh could have done a few things differently here and there, like making Gigaplant instead of Titanium, going for more value plays, trying to set up those value plays where Josh is accumulating card advantage and putting pressure on us that way. But I think overall, our deck is just more consistent. And that consistency definitely showed. And us being able to just like put up a big dude and keep the graveyard shenanigans from happening proved to be too much. Proved to be too much for that matchup, which I think is a solid game plan in general in Edison format, is like put up a big dude and then have graveyard interaction. Round 6, I thought this was going to be the last round. I thought I was going to have no chance to top because I was just like, all right, I go 4-2 and I have a respectable record, and maybe I end in the top 16 of the tournament, which is, it's okay. Top 16 of 70-person tournaments, it's not great, but it's better than bottom 16, I guess. You know what I mean? But I'm informed at this point that there's a 7th round after this. And so now I'm like, oh shit, this actually matters. And I'm like, bruh, this is actually crazy. So I'm actually going to be playing like pretty serious matches here because other 3-2 could top 8 basically. And I get paired against Evan, the other person whose birthday it was. So birthday boy battle here, which is pretty hype. And Evan is actually playing Amaryllis Plants, which is a matchup that I had prepared for. And it is a matchup that I had tested against. And I was like, how do I ever win this? And I realized that you just need Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and you need to have him. And that's how you take it on. It stops Mark of the Rose, it stops Amaryllis. You know, it stops those 2 cards. Banishes the graveyard, I guess. It sets up for the DDR, but, like, you know, you still force them to have specifically DDR and, like, discards that they want to discard and stuff like that. It can definitely do a lot of stuff. It can attack over Lila and whatnot. Attack over the most of the cast, actually, in the deck. Card Trooper, too. It shuts off Necrogardener. There's a lot of stuff it does. Anyway, I start off with Card Trooper, and this is where the called shot happens. I'm going to see if I can get this this audio for you guys. I'm not sure if it... Hold up, let me see. Let's see if we can hear it. Okay, watch this. I said dandy. It said it so fast because it was fucking... And then we both took a minute to die laughing. But yeah, I said dandy, and that's pretty funny. Called shot, first called shot of the tournament. I get 2 tokens. Evan and I, good friends. Evan also wearing the same hoodie as me, so it's a true mirror. We're also decked out in the same drip. I stayed with Evan when I went out there. Absolute legend. Great player, too. Really, really strong player. So, exciting match. Exciting match. A matchup that I think is very difficult. He starts off with T-set pass. I hit Dandy, so I'm just living. I have Caius, but he has Chain Torrential. So I'm like, oh, shit. This is going to get bad. I do get a draw, but he does have his own Dandy. So all that advantage I got from milling those Dandy tokens immediately mitigated. And now we're back to neutral. So, except Evan has 2 tokens now instead of me, which sucks because I would have liked to have 2 tokens. Evan thinks for a while here. Just sets another monster and passes. I think... Yeah, just passes. We draw for turn. We find D Prison, I think. Yeah, D Prison. So we no longer have tokens. My quick draw looking kind of sad. But I do have Lone Fire. I do have Dandelion. And this is a cool play. I decided to go Lone Fire into Dandelion instead of going into Titanial. I attack the token, and I bluff him that I drew my Titanial. And I set my back row and pass. And he's like, damn, unlucky. But little did he know, I think I have another Lone Fire in hand. I think. I don't remember. Anyway, flips the Raikou, pops a back row, hits Mirror Force, mills 3, hits Plague, so pretty good. Pretty good mill here. He can stack for Plague. He decides to summon Tomato instead. And now it's my turn to Torrential with Dandy tokens. And so now we've traded Torrentials, we've traded Dandy tokens, but I'm the one on top here with the Dandy tokens. And I do believe I have Lone Fire in my hand, don't I? I can't really tell. I know I have a Quick Draw for sure. I decided to go for Quick Draw into Drill. And I do actually attack for 24 because I have my own Gores. So even if he has Gores, I have my own Gores. I decided to pitch Gores because I figured I'm going to set D Prison here, and he's not going to play into Gores, so because he's a pretty good player. So he does top deck trade-in, or top deck Amaryllis for his trade-in, and he draws into Lone Fire as well. So pretty big swing for him here. He's going to go into Titanial. I can't remember if he attacks or not. He does attack, I believe. And I decided to D-Prison just to clear the Titanial. It's going to get really annoying once he brings back Amaryllis in the end phase. So I figured might as well get my 1-for-1 Sakuretsu armor here while I still can. He banishes Titanial, specials Amaryllis, and passes back to me. I am able to bring back Drill. Drill can grab me back a boss monster. I'm going to grab Lone Fire because I waited on that Titanial. I'm going to brain control the Amaryllis, and now I know it's Jover. I'm going to Lone Fire, activate the Lone Fire effect, sacrifice his Amaryllis, bring out my Titanial, and cook. And this is going to be lethal damage. So, crazy game. I think not going for Titanial was definitely the winning play for me there. Being really patient on that. Knowing that I could drill back Lone Fire, or I had a second Lone Fire. I don't really know what it was. But knowing that I could get it back. And knowing that going Titanial into my own Torrential was really silly. Was the winning play of the game there, I think, for that one. Really close match. I think had he got going a little earlier, it would have been really difficult. I do have that DD Crow, I do have those Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and I do have that Soul Release, and you can see me snapping those off, just throwing them right down on the table, like these are going in my deck, no matter what. And I'm thinking about Breaker to deal with Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, because that card's really annoying. But basically, it's just Breaker to deal with Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, if I want that or not. And it depends on what I want to side out here. But more often than not, what I side in this matchup is I side out Morphing Jar. I side out some amount of like Raikou shit because Raikou's like really bad against Titanial. And I actually side out, I think, you want to keep the full Synchro package. Debris and Quickdraw are like your win cons in this matchup. It's really important to recognize when Debris and Quickdraw are your win cons and when Caius Raikou is your win con and Avarice. Because there are some matchups where Debris and Quickdraw are not very good, like Blackwings. And there are some matchups where Debris and Quickdraw are everything, which is like Amaryllis. So it's important to know which ones are which and which ones you want to side out and in and all that shit. I sided out Gores because I always want to be the aggressor and I always want to have Dandy tokens. There were a couple of things. I never want to take a 2800 hit to the dome because then I'm just like straight up losing. So I sided out some interesting ones. I forget what I sided out. I definitely sided out Jar too. Jar's like pretty bad. I might have sided out one of my back row hate cards. I'm not really sure. I don't really know. I'm not going to sit here and make you guys sit here and figure it out. But yeah, I just switched the cards up. Switched them. And we're shuffling up. We're shuffling up for the game number 2. I'm pretty happy I won game 1. It's a bad matchup game 1 if they get going. For sure it's a bad matchup game 1 if they get going. But if they don't get going, like they get a few mills, they don't see Amaryllis, then it's pretty easy for Drill Dandy to take over any situation. Right off the bat, he goes charge, mill his own Dandy, mill Amaryllis, and I'm like, well, fuck me. I'm just cooked. I'm just done. Really insane mill for him there. Just freest +3 of his life. That's why Charge the Light Brigade is the GOAT in that deck. It's also pretty good in Dandy, just because or Quickdraw Dandy, because if you mill Dandy, it's just fucking crazy. Like what happened last game. We milled Dandy and he was immediately behind. I did side in at least one of the breakers. I'm going to go Breaker Pop, hit the Mirror Force, and I'm like, damn, dude. Breaker's my fucking GOAT, dude. I love this card so much. It lets you come back from all these shitty situations. Like, what's he going to do? Flip a Raikou, pop my Breaker? Like, okay. It already got +2. I'm already chilling. He has trade in for a second Amaryllis. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. This is actually pretty nuts. He has a pretty strong start here. So I'm like, okay, it's not looking great for me. But the Breaker was a good start. It was a good start at mitigating some of the cards he has. He definitely got us a +1. Lila's going to get him his plus back, run us over by battle for 100. But if you'll notice my hand, I have the Destroyer of Ghosts. I have Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. And this is exactly why I like him in this matchup. And why I like sandbagging back row is like you'll get them to summon a Lila. And then you just, boom, it's Jover. Kaiku, connect over the Lila, banish both Amaryllis. Oh, such a big swing. Even if Raikou pops the Kaiku, he's down 2 Amaryllis here. And he has no plants in his grave. So it's like, okay, you pop my Kaiku, but we're back in the same situation. I've got an Avarice. I can easily outgrind the situation. I've got the power plays. I've got the power synchros. Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer stops Mark of the Rose. It stops, just Mark of the Rose, but it's pretty good here. He just T-sets and passes. I mean, he has Raikous, so there's no real reason for him to leave the Raikou in attack position in case I have a second Kaiku. I attack a token. I just want to clear those. I decide to set Sangan here because I know he has Raikous. He's going to Raikou target the set. It's Sangan. Sangan's going to get me Quick Draw. It might give me Lone Fire or Crow or something like that. I'm not really sure. I decided not to get Crow even though he does have Plague. Because I figured if he does go for a Plague Synchro, we can answer it pretty easily with Black Rose. So I decided to just go for Lone Fire to try to Lone Fire into Titanial and like win the game that way. Getting Titanial advantage is like really nice. So now he has to answer the Kaiku because I can banish the Plague if I connect over the Raikou with it. So he's going to stack for Plague. And he's going to make Android. He asked me how many cards are in my hand. He asked me my life total. He's like big thonk in here. Synchros with the Raikou, the token, and the Plague. Now keep in mind, we are both pretty fucking tired because we were up all night partying for his birthday. And we were playing Melee and we were like, drinking and shit. So we're both fucking exhausted at this point. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to make Android. And then he attacks over the Kaiku and he gains 600 and he passes the turn back. We Lone Fire. We activate Lone Fire. We go get Lone Fire. We activate it. We get Titanial. And I'm like, I'm going to attack the Android here. Do you have it? Do you have the way to stop this? And he does. He has Compulsory. And I actually look at my hand. I have Avarice in my hand. And I'm like, I have 4 normal summons. I'm going to negate this Compulsory because if I'm able to shuffle back the Lone Fires and the Titanial, that's good. And then also it gives me an extra option to leave stuff in the graveyard for my Debris Dragon when I go for this Avarice. So I decided to negate the compulsory. Titanial's not going to do anything for me in my hand in this point. So I go for Avarice here to try and find outs to shit. Yeah, I decided to leave the Lone Fire, and I shuffle back, I think, Caius. I should have shuffled back Breaker, but Caius is what I ended up shuffling back. I draw 2. I do have Mirror Force, so I can set that and chill, but if he has Raikou, I'm losing that Mirror Force. So checks his set monster. Heavy Storms me. All right, Mirror Force down. Flips Tomato, hits for 14, hits for 24, and I've taken a billion damage, but as you can tell, the deck doesn't really amass too much advantage without those Amaryllis, and it doesn't really pressure you past this point without those Amaryllis. If you don't have those Amaryllis, like, how are you getting the last few points of damage in now? Now I can just, like, do whatever I want. Debris Dragon, activate, Black Rose, blow up the field, and there goes your monsters. Pass the turn back. I'm big chillin'. T-set. He passes the turn back. I draw for turn. It's another Avarice. I'm like, well, that's fucking great. Let's go ahead and Card Trooper mill 3. Attack. It's Dandelion. He gets 2 tokens. I Avarice to try and draw into more back row. I shuffle back Black Rose, Lone Fire, Debris, Quickdraw, and Breaker. Card Trooper will be a Black Rose target for me, or Debris target for me. He says here that the Kaiku has been killing him the whole game. And I'm like, I agree. I draw into another Kaiku, the Ghost Destroyer, and another Quickdraw. I decide to actually pitch to summon a Quickdraw in defense position. I get absolutely cooked by Cyber Dragon here if he sided it in. But he doesn't have it, so thankfully that doesn't come down. I just put it in defense so I didn't lose to like random like Mark of the Rose, like tribute summon shenanigans. So, yeah. He passes a turn back. He does shoots me. I have 2 Debris, 2 Raikou, Kaiku, and Caius, so it's just like, you know, there's really not much to take here. Like, just, like, you just kind of fucking lose no matter what you take here. So, yeah. I think he decides to take Caius. I don't know. I think it's Caius. I swatted a fly there. Pretty funny that that gets caught on camera. The mannerisms here is funny. It's like watching me play is like, it's so weird. It's not something I'm not used to doing it, you know? Looking at how I like do certain things and whatnot. Never give me a swivel chair because I'll always be swiveling. I mill 3, I hit Dandy, I'm the GOAT, I make drill, game's over. It's pretty much over at this point. He has to torrential, we get a draw, but we can just do whatever we want from this point. I decide to summon Kaiku, attack, and just banish his plants. This way I'm not getting Mark of the Rose reversaled. Just hit both plants. And I drew Typhoon. I'm going to set that and pass in case he has DDR. He trade-ins, pitches Titanial, but then he decides to concede. And I'm like, don't concede just yet. You can Card Trooper attack over my Kaiku. And he's like, all right, but he's running low on cards in deck, and he attacks over it, and he's pretty much dead next turn. So, yeah, it's just going to be tricky for him to ever come back from this. I set Raikou. It's like, how can he keep milling 3 every single turn without Avarices? He's just going to slowly run out of cards. I'm going to make him draw a card with the Card Trooper there. He's going to pass back. I can basically just run him out of his deck as long as I'm being careful about how I'm milling myself. I can even make Ancient Fairy in defense, and there's not really much he can do to ever close this game out before he runs out of cards in deck. I'm going to Call of Haunted, target Drill, make some silly plays, run into cores for the memes, banish, pitching Debris, set monster, pass the turn. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Sets monster, DDRs, change Typhoon, handshake. Classic stuff. I told him not to prematurely concede, but maybe he kind of knew the writing was on the wall. He knew what was left in his deck, what he had sided in, what he had sided out, what he couldn't win with at that point. And here I'm like trying to peer pressure him. I'm like, yo, bro, we're both hungover as shit. Just you want some beer? I had been low-key drinking off camera. Not that I condone this. Drinking non-alcoholic beer, of course. Of course it was non-alcoholic. Moving on to round 7. I'm now at 4-2. Can I make a respectable 5-2 finish and make it into top 8? That's the real question. Moving on. This is a player that I had heard is a pretty strong player. I heard he has a lot of tops in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So, I know he knows his shit. I know he's topped at least a couple YCSs. And he's also at 4-2 battling for the top 8 slot. His name's Calvin. I don't remember his last name. I'm sorry, Calvin. Really nice guy. Really cool guy. Really, really knowledgeable about the game. It's always fun to play against someone who, like, knows shit. So you don't have to explain like things to them basically. And he's also wearing the sickest patch I've ever seen. So shout out to Calvin, absolute legend. He's playing Diva Hero, which is a scary matchup, but I do have a pretty good sideboard for it. You'll notice the MVPs, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and of course pulling the rug in this matchup. Very, very solid. So yeah, he pile shuffles like crazy. And this is a game where I'm like, okay, if I win this, I make it into top 8. I'm the Quickdraw GOAT. I lived up to, the expectations that my predecessors who played this deck have set, which is top 8, the major tournaments you enter with it. And I start off with Lone Fire, and I'm going to have to get Titanium after I get the second Lone Fire because I don't want to draw it, basically. I don't know what my opponent's playing. I don't know anything yet, so I'm just going to put Titanium in play, get it in under bottomless, and just set some cards, maybe set compulsory and pass. I was thinking if he just sets a monster or something, I can rush him. I have Card Trooper, mill 3. I don't hit Dandy, sadly, but I can still just rush him, basically. I can Foolish Dandy now and just start attacking, which is what I do. Because if it's Raikou, then we just trade it with a token. I attack with the Titanium first, I believe. No, I attack with the Card Trooper. Yeah, I attack with the Card Trooper first. Because Card Trooper gets over everything, pretty much. That isn't Great Peeper Spy. And he summons Apprentice Magician from his deck. I'm like, what the fuck is this? That's crazy. Tomato into Apprentice Magician? Hold the fuck up. I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh, I know what this is. And the reason I know what it is because at the party last night, one of the guys who was there said he played against Calvin, but he didn't say him by name. But he said he got fucked up by this guy who was playing Apprentice Magician in his Diva Hero deck. And I'm like, oh shit, I know what this is. I know what's up. And I'm laughing here. I'm like, I know this. Don't look at my dirty hair. Don't look at that. All right, Titanium attacks. I deal 24, so big chunk of damage. And he's able to float into Crystal Seer, which will get him a water. It also decked him a fair bit of cards, So I set one back row, and I pass the turn. He draws for turn. He flips a Crystal Seer. He's going to be able to dig 2 cards deeper to Heavy Storm, to whatever it is he wants to find. And also filter, if he was going to pick up a Malicious or a Gilman, he can put it to the bottom. You'll see his hand, he has Mind Control, but Titanium stops that. He has a few other cards that Titanium does a pretty good job against. And honestly, I think Titanium is just fucking MVP. It is so good. Even when you draw, it's just really good. Here comes Diva, and I'm just whatever. He's got Mermaid Archer. I asked for priority, and he's like, you actually know what this does. That's crazy. And I'm like, yeah. But he doesn't activate the Mermaid Archer effect with priority. I have Compulsory, I have Bottomless, so I literally don't care what he makes here. If he makes Bionic, okay. I'll trade Titanium with his entire board and 1 card in his hand. That's A-okay with me. He attacks the Card Trooper. I'm going to draw a card. We do lose a lot of our pressure by losing our whole board here, but I think it's okay. I think it's better than the alternative. I could have compulsed his Archer, but I didn't want him to set back row and me not be able to deal with it because he just pops both my tokens. And yeah, I just didn't want to deal with that. I think it's fine to just accept the trade here of Bionic and a discard for Titanium. So he's going to do that. He's going to pitch Plague, which is pretty good for him to get that in the grave, but either way, I'm up cards, so I'm big chilling, and I draw Debris Dragon, so I'm that's why we play 3. That's why we play 3, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to go for it. And this is actually a play I learned from reading one of Jeff Jones's, or I think it might have been Sorosha's feature match, where you go Debris, bring back Card Trooper, mill 3, try to hit Dandy, so you can make Stardust, and then attack with both, and deal 14. And then, because I have Compulsory set, oh, never mind. I'm just bad. I attack for 24. Oh, the reason I did this is because I can play through Gorz this way. Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind. I do this later. I do the Debris bring back Card Trooper thing later. Don't listen to me. I go Debris into Black Rose, attack for 24, set Book of Moon. I have Book Compulsory. Compulsory can handle the token. I book the Gorz, and then I can turn it to 0 attack later on. So it is a -1 for us, but it's fine. He attacks, we book the Gorz. He attacks, we compulse the token. And yeah, the next Debris, I think I do that play. Or I do that at some point in one of the matches. I forget fucking what happens. I'm just misrepresenting this stuff. He sacks for Caius. Caius is going to target the... He looks at my field. He's like, okay, Black Rose can't get over Caius. I'm going to target the back row. And I'm like, oh, messed up. He says, how many more chainables could you have? Apparently 1 more in Bottomless. I draw for turn. It is Heavy Storm. And I fucking slam that shit. He chains Wind Blast, and I'm like, well, fuck. All right, you had a chainable too. And I was like, God damn. God damn it. God damn it. He has a chainable. I'm getting fucking owned, but at least I have Raikou. He's kind of in a weird spot, but he mind controls, he reveals. It's actually Hamster, not Raikou, my bad. He can stack for Plague, which he's going to do, I think, to clear the Hamster. I don't know if he does, actually. I forget what he does here. Yeah, he stacks for Plague, summons it, synchros, makes Goyo Guardian. Yes, and then he plays Miracle. Yes, banishing the evil guy and the Bionic to special summon Absolute Zero. This is telling me he does play Return, by the way, because he banished the Bionic. He's going to hit for 25, hit for 28, and I'm going to drop Gores and get my Gores token. I drop Return. What do I rip? I rip something good, right? Hopefully. No. Just trade with his board with the Gores. Pretty good Gores for me. Honestly, best possible. He draws. He sets when he passes. I draw. It's Debris Dragon. And this is where I think... Do I synchro? I guess I make Black Rose attack for 24. Drops him to 800 or 600 exactly. And so he's not able to flip that brain control that he had set. And we win that game. I can't remember why I think I went for the Debris, leave the guy play. I know I did that at some point. I might have done it in a money match or something. I thought I did it in I thought I did it for I don't remember. I don't remember when I did that. I might have even done it later in this match. I'm not even sure. But the play is basically you Debris back Card Trooper and you just leave it there because you have Compulse. So like worst case scenario, you get a draw and you get to put back your Debris and reset it. Sideboarding for this one, like I said earlier, we've got DD Crow. I'm not super high on DD Crow in this matchup. I think it's definitely worse than Kaiju the Ghost Destroyer, but I still bring it in because they have Plague Mally. And then I did bring in my Pulling the Rugs, as well as I think some of my other cards. I don't remember which other cards, but Game 2 is a difficult one. Game 2 is a difficult one. So we shuffle up, and I get Dust Shooted turn 1, which is always tough. My hand is good. I have Raikou. I have Lone Fire. I have multiple starters. I have Debris Dragon for follow-up. I have Gores. But Gores is a -1 when you know about it. Let's be real. So his Dust Shoot's hitting 2 cards here. It's hitting a starter and a Gores. And he can play around Raikou, so he just takes Lone Fire and he's fine. He doesn't need to play into Dust. He doesn't need to play into Mirror Force. He takes Lone Fire. And tough situation for us. That Dust Shoot really fucked us up this game. So I go ahead and set pass. He draws for return. It is, I believe, Deep Sea Diva. He goes Deep Sea Diva. He special summons out the Mermaid Archer. And then he actually makes a really interesting play here. He creature swaps for my Raikou. And I'm like, well, that's really sick. That's actually really sick. But why would you leave in creature swap versus the deck that summons Dandy tokens? That was a little bit sus to me. It worked out for him here. But I was like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of bad. I guess you can take Titanium, but like only if Titanium is the only monster. Like, it's kind of a difficult situation to set up. But hey, worked out well for him in this circumstance. He's able to set it back, I believe, and pass. On our turn, I summon Kaiju the Ghost Destroyer. I attack over the Archer, and I banish the Diva. He can now Raikou pop the Kaiku, but what I was hoping is that he wouldn't have specifically Heavy Storm to hit my Dust and my Mirror Force. I wanted to give him 3 targets for the Raikou and make one of the back row chainable to like turn him off from hitting the Mirror Force, because I don't really care about the Kaiku at this point, but I do care about the Mirror Force. So I didn't want him to 50-50 into that, but he flips Heavy Storm here, just doesn't fear Starlight Road, doesn't flip the Raikou first at all, doesn't fear anything, honestly. I guess because he knows I have Mirror Force and Dust Tornado from the Dust Shoot. He doesn't need to fear anything, and I'm just like, well, fuck me. I lose. So he flips, pops, and he mills Malicious, and this game just starts to go south. Like, it just starts to fall apart from here, where, like, he just had it all, basically. He had the Storm when he needed it. He had the Mill Mally when he needed it. He had the Miracle Fusion. He has back row. He passes the turn. I summon Debris. I attack the Raikou. I don't really have any other plays. I need to keep him off Caius. I set Typhoon and pass. He draws return. He checks his back row. He checks that one a lot. The one next to his deck. I'm like, okay, that one's activatable. That one's actionable. He's going to pass. I attack for 1,000. I'm like, all right. Set one pass. He goes End Phase Dust? Question mark? end phase Wind Blast the new one. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Upstart Goblin gains 1,000, puts me a little bit out of kill range. Sets another back row and passes. End phase, I'm going to Typhoon the new set, and it's another Wind Blast. So pretty good for us that we got rid of those. Those cards are really annoying. I set a new back row. That's the card I got Wind Blasted. I don't remember what it was. He summons Grepher and just attacks. I have Deep Prison, so I'm able to banish the Grepher to protect my Debris Dragon. What is a draw here? I didn't see what it was. I think it was Titanial. Oh, no, it was Lone Fire. So I drew Lone Fire. I'm going to activate it, but he's going to Solemn the Lone Fire. So I'm going to attack for 1,000, drop him down to 1,300. I'm at 8,000 here. Now, he has Miracle Fusion. He has a lot of good shit here. But does he want to spend the Malicious to do it? He kind of has to, right? Otherwise, he's just banishing the Malicious anyways. So he's going to do it to get the Malicious out of the deck. And at this point, I'm like, okay, so he has Miracle. As long as he doesn't have anything too crazy, I can maybe come back from this. I'm going to lose my Debris, though, which sucks. Hopefully, I draw Raikou. He sets one and passes. I draw for turn. I set a monster. I pass. He draws for turn. He attacks. It's Hamster. This will get me a Raikou. So, kind of like a Raikou. Gets me the last Raikou here. Not a great Raikou because I would have preferred it to be faster than this, but it still works because his Solemn is gone. So it'll at least clear the Absolute Zero. I decided to just blow up the Absolute Zero. Card's going to be a pain in my ass no matter when. So might as well clear it now. Blow it up. Mill 3. Hopefully hit Dandy. Don't hit Dandy. Pretty deep in the deck now. Haven't seen Dandy. So kind of unlucky. But Upstart Goblin gets activated. We gain some life points. We're now up to 7,500, I believe. So we're pretty safe from like a super OTK. Flips Crystal Seer, which is pretty good. It's going to give him a 2-card filter. He's going to draw a new card. Activates Future Fusion. Is able to set up for a future Absolute Zero here, which is really nice. And it also makes it so his Miracle Fusions play through my DD Crow that's in my hand. I know I have DD Crow at this point. So, yeah. Really good find for him. Crystal Seer is just really strong card in general. And really cool with the Apprentice Magicians. I think his build is actually like legitimately good. He passes a turn back. We draw Tarantula, and I'm just like, man, fuck this game. I haven't drawn something to close him out for the last 4 turns, and he's at fucking 1,500 life points. I just need a Debris Dragon or an Avarice or something. He goes into Absolute Zero off the Future Fusion. After Typhooning my Tarantula, he attacks. I do have Gores, but it's going to put me in a bad spot here because I dropped to 4,300, and now he can Brain Control and Caius me, and I'm just like, I have nothing. I'm going to take 1,000. I just have nothing. Now I have like DD Crow and 1 unknown. I have Dandelion. I'm like, okay, I can set Dandelion, survive a turn, pass. He draws for turn. And he just has it. He just has Mind Control. And that's going to be lethal. So we're going to go to game 3. A lot of games I dropped today to Mind Control. A lot of games. Card fucked me up in a lot of situations. Card is really, really good versus Quickdraw. I don't know the best way to deal with it, honestly. I think just having extra Book of Moons, having extra defense probably helps a lot. But that card is just a fucking menace. I think extra Book of Moons is probably the best answer, though. Because if they Mind Control Raikou, they flip target your book. You can at least flip it face down again. And then when you get it back, you still have the Raikou pop. So it's like not that bad. So I think having a second Book of Moon would improve my percentages into Mind Control, which is definitely something I'm thinking about. That card really fucks up this deck. Like, it just really fucks it up. It got me good, that one. All right, moving on. Game 3. Game 3, I forget how I sided, but it's probably just the same. I always like look at my side and like switch cards around, even if I'm not actually switching cards around, because I want to make my opponent think I'm doing it. So that's why you gotta play some mind games. Anyway, start off with Trooper, mill 3, hit 2 monsters, so can't complain. Set Torrential Pass, which is nice. He has to see my grave. He's chilling and vibing. He upstarts. I'm at 9,000. I love getting Upstart Goblin life points in this format. I think it's just like the best thing ever. He activates Rhoda. So he starts off with Dark Grepher. He's not going to grab Stratos, but that means he already has Stratos. So I'm like, all right, you already have Stratos, so he's big chilling, right? Wrong. He actually doesn't go for Stratos at all. He goes for Rhoda, pitch Mally, special Grepher, and I'm like, basically clarifying that he pitched the Mally to special Grepher here, and that he's not activating the Grepher with priority. And he's thinking here on whether or not he wants to activate priority. He decides to just summon Plague Spreader, and this is actually like one of the coolest turns in the entire tournament. So basically, I have Torrential, and he knows that I could have Torrential. So it's in his best interest to always preserve Mally Plague follow-up. Because if I ever use the Torrential, he can go Mally Plague into Stardust and then I lose. So as long as I keep the Torrential back there, he can't go for Stardust. But because he can always go for Stardust after the Torrential, I can't Torrential. So the Torrential is like trading with a future Stardust, kind of. Really interesting situation. And he realizes the situation, too, that he's in. Like, as long as he saves the Mally Plague, I can't Torrential. So he goes ahead and synchros into Goyo. He decides that he wants to Goyo to steal Card Trooper to try and mill a water to turn on his future fusions. And I'm like, that's pretty good. And Card Trooper's interesting. When it is destroyed, I will get to draw a card, but only when it's destroyed and I control it. If he takes it and I destroy it, I actually won't get to draw a card. So it's actually not a bad steal for him here at all. It gives him 3 mils towards the water. That being said, it could hit the second Mally and fuck him up, like, terribly. So the reason I'm letting him do all this is because I have Torrential still, and I know he will overcommit into it. I know he will. And I will eventually find a way to deal with Stardust. But I want to get one more card out of this Torrential. I want to get a little bit more value. And I want to see my draw steps first. I might not need a Torrential. I might draw into like Compulsory or something. And then I might be able to save the Torrential for when he goes for Stardust, basically. Or for Absolute Zero. I decided to just T-set. I believe it's a Raikou and a card I don't know. He mills another 3, which is crazy. He's just milling. He stacks for Plague. Special summons the Plague. And at this point, I do have to Torrential because he could go for Stardust. But this is totally fine unless he has Return. Because now he can't actually Stardust me. I did have to Torrential away my own Raikou, which sucks, but had to make it happen. Anyway, he hasn't normal summoned yet. He can banish Special Mally. He is going to attack for 800, and I'm going to take 800, and he's going to pass. So, interesting situation. I'm a normal Debris. Debris is going to target the Card Trooper. This is what I was talking about, yeah. Card Trooper mill 3, and this is where I leave both in play. This is a play I learned from reading some Jeff Jones matches, basically, back in the day, where you just leave them. You just don't even synchro. You say, I got my +1. If you kill him, I'm going to die, I'm going to draw a card. If he kills the Card Trooper, if he goes for Miracle Fusion, it's so much better for me if I leave the Card Trooper in play. I go for Bottomless here. Yep. Card Trooper's going to draw me a new card, and I'm just like, I've got so many cards here. I've got Drill Dandy now. Everything is up. Everything is up. And this is how this matchup kind of works out in favor. If you have Torrential, just make sure they never go for Stardust, and your value cards will always outvalue their value cards. And you will always be able to deal with like a single Absolute Zero plays. As long as they don't get Stardust in play, I think this matchup's very good. But if they get an early Stardust, it can be annoying. That's pretty much like, for me, the scale tipper is like, how early of a Stardust can they get and how well can they leverage their Wind Blasts versus me is like, can we get to this middle game with him having to burn resources to stay in the game? And if that happens, then I definitely win. I think it's in the best interest of the Diva Hero player versus Quickdraw to either make an early Stardust or just sandbag until you have an OTK hand. But naturally, you can't do that if you're being pressured by things like Stardust, Titanial, etc., Drill Warrior, whatever, whatnot. We pitch the Kaios, banish it, banish the Drill. He's looking at his hand. He's like, well, fuck. This is going to be tough. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm wiping my eyes. I'm exhausted. I am so tired at this point. I've played so much Yu-Gi-Oh! I've hardly slept in like 3 days. He special summons Cyber Dragon. I don't take the bait. I don't bottomless it. Even if he has Kaios, I literally don't care. He goes Miracle. He's trying to make Gaia. He can't make Gaia. He doesn't have an elemental hero. I tell him right now, you can't do that. I tell him right now, as soon as he touches the Goyo, I'm like, you can't do that. You don't got an elemental hero. And he's like, oh, you're right. I've got to summon Absolute Zero. I've got Bottomless Trap Hole for the Absolute Zero. I can negate the effect with Stardust. He can hit me for 21, but it doesn't matter because I have Stardust coming back in the end phase. I draw Lone Fire. Drill's going to bring back fucking literally anything. It doesn't matter. I'm going to bring back Card Trooper so I can make Chimera Tech with this monster. And I'm just like, oh. I'm trying to see if I can kill him through Gores. But I can't, so I'm just going to fucking wing it and kill him through everything else, which is Dragon stuff. So I decided to go for the super lethal with, I believe, make Chimera Tech off his guy. No, I go for Titanial. Yeah, I go for Titanial because it runs over Gores at least. So, yep. I attack. He says go to damage. I'm like, there's no way you have it. And then he handshakes me. And yeah, I ended the tournament 5-2. And I bubbled at 13th place. So, you know what? We take those. Pretty good record. Pretty good record overall. Really cool matches. I think the coolest matches were, I think this Diva Hero one was pretty cool. There's a lot of like interactivity. And I think the Black Garden one was really cool. I think I definitely messed up a lot, and so did my Black Garden opponent. There was a lot happening in that match. This is definitely one I'm going to want to look at in hindsight. It was almost as exhausting commentating 7 matches in a row as it was playing them, which is crazy. My voice is like, Keegan, please drink some water, do something. Take a break, bro. Take a break. Go to bed. You haven't slept well in 3 days. Go to bed. Overall, the deck is awesome. I love Quickdraw Dandy Warrior. It's a pinnacle of Edison format. It's one of the sickest decks to ever do it. Honestly, ever. One of the coolest deck designs of all time, of just cool cards that just happen to fit well together. And I will definitely be playing this deck a lot more in the future. I think it's one of the best decks in Edison format. I think my sideboard needs some work, but I was really happy with the main deck. I think it's just like pretty close to perfect. 1 or 2 changes here or there, get that second Book of Moon in there, draw Titanial slightly less. And I think that would go a long way. Pretty happy with the list overall. The sideboarding, yeah, my Body as a Shield's got to come out for sure. I think Starlight Road's got to come out. I didn't really like Starlight Road that much. Even against like the decks that it's good against, like Blackwings and stuff, like they play around it so much. They have oppression anyway. I just don't think the card is like, it's just too narrow. And you already summon Stardust very easily with triple debris. So I think it's better to have something like maybe another Dust Tornado or a Trap Stun or something like that. I think having Starlight Road it's finicky. It's not optimal. It's not great. Maybe another Compulsory for the Value Turbo matchup, which I think is a very good matchup for this deck, by the way. I actually think this deck does great into the field. I think the only bad matchup really is Blackwings. It kind of destroys heroes, and I think it also destroys Value Turbo, which not a lot of decks can boast. So if you are looking for a deck that takes a lot of skill to play, but has good matchups against a lot of the field, and has a lot of grind game, and gets to synchro summon, and gets to play a lot of the coolest cards in Edison format, definitely check out Quickdraw. The next week, I'm going to be uploading the top 4 and the finals matches from this tournament, the Xanadu tournament. Not the top 8, because unfortunately I had to take a break after playing my games and didn't get a chance to record the top 8 matches. But I do have the top 4 and the finals matches. I'm going to be doing stuff with the Jinzo deck that won the tournament in Berlin this last weekend. I'm hopefully going to be covering the Card Addiction tournament that happened, the Card Addiction prize card tournament. So a lot of deck profiles are going to be going up, a lot of unique stuff. The decks that ended up topping this event, there was an Evil Hero deck that top 8'd in the hands of Trey Naldo, very powerful player. There was a Jinzo Gear Town deck that top 8'd, actually got top 4 that you guys will see that got this event. And if you guys want to see those lists, make sure and go to the Feel Good Gaming YouTube channel. They will be uploading those lists in the next few days. And I'll be showing the matches here, and the list will be on the Feel Good Gaming for this specific tournament. They're banger lists. What ended up winning this tournament was Machina something. Machina. It was like Chaos. Machina Chaos. It was really sick. It was one of the coolest lists I've ever seen. So make sure and subscribe to Feel Good Gaming. Check out their YouTube. I'll leave a link to it in the comments below. And thank you guys for all your continued support and for tuning in to this super episode on Quickdraw Dandy Warriors. See you guys in the next one. Peace.